All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to afternoon coverage of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial.
All right, are we ready for the jury? Sure. Sure.
Should be getting started here. Welcome back. Getting the stream out there, getting it shared out. There we go. There's the judge, right on time as usual. Like the video if you guys haven't. Spam those reactions. Thank you so much for subscribing and following Mercado Media on Facebook and YouTube. What'd you guys have for lunch? Comment in the chat. What was for lunch? Hey, Selena. Good to see you. Got an approach at the judge. There we go. You had A&W. You had some Subway. A&W sounds bomb. Did you have Rip Your Float? You had sushi. Haven't had lunch yet. You're making it now. You had a toasted bagel. You had some coffee for lunch. Yeah, there's just not enough time. I'll have to eat later. Hey, how you doing? I had the end of a safety meeting. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're going to have a live witness this afternoon. That's what they announced before the lunch break. We've been hearing nothing but deposition testimony. Well, I don't even know if you can. They're using depositions as witness testimony. Subway had some Philly steak subs. The interview of Adam Walt, the Johnny Depp's lawyer, was not good. Hey, thank you so much. 500 stars from Linda. Thank you so much, Linda. I'm wondering if there's more of the Marie Sendaga, detective with the Los Angeles Police Department, deposition to go. You had chicken and noodle with grilled cheese. Lunchables are bomb, Julian. What do you mean? What's wrong with Lunchables? You haven't had lunch yet? Thank you, Natasha, for those 50 stars. Thank you so much. I think Lunchables are bomb. Adult Lunchables, you just got to get a snack tray. Just go get a meat and cheese tray. You had Panera Chicken Teriyaki. A Panera Chicken Teriyaki bowl. Oh, they're getting started.
All right, so are we ready for the jury? Yes. Okay.
We are ready for the jury. We are ready. Comment where you're tuning in from. What city or what state? I know we have viewers from outside of the United States, so where in the world are you watching from? You're watching the live defamation trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Thank you so much, Evie. Thank you, Laura.
Be seated. Your next witness?
We call Ron Schnell.
Okay. Schnell.
Schnell.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this case and penalty of law?
Yes.
Live witness, Thomas. Keep on rocking in the free world. Thanks, Thomas. Keep on rocking in the free world.
All right.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
I'm Ron Schnell.
Ron Schnell.
And what is your current job title, Mr. Schnell?
I'm a director at Berkeley Research Group.
And could you briefly describe your educational background since high school?
I have a master's degree in computer science.
Do you have an undergraduate degree?
I do not.
And can you explain to the jury why not?
When I was a kid, there was a lot of publicity about me because I was a professor at NYU. When I was 14, NYU actually offered me to go into their freshman class when I was 14, but I decided that I wanted to experience the social aspect of high school, so I turned them down, but by the time I got to college, they skipped me from undergraduate to graduate.
So when did you receive your master's degree from Syracuse University?
It wasn't until 2008, actually.
And why wasn't it until 2008?
So because of my previous background while I was at Syracuse, including I did work at MIT in the artificial intelligence lab for the two founders of artificial intelligence, Patrick Winston and Marvin Minsky. I was immediately lured to industry even while I was in graduate school, and eventually they offer you enough money where you have to take them up on it.
So when you were lured away from Syracuse University, what did you do?
I worked at Bell Labs on something called the Unix operating system.
Unix operating
is,
system?
An operating system, which is the core of the computer, what makes everything work. Microsoft Windows is an operating system. Mac OS is an operating system. You may have heard of Linux, which is, Unix was the predecessor to Linux. So I worked on the kernel of the Unix operating system at Bell Labs.
And when was that approximately? What year?
This is Ron
1986.
Schnell.
And how long did you work at Bell Labs?
A couple of years.
And what did you do after Bell Labs?
After that, I was lured away to IBM. So I worked at IBM on their version of the Unix operating system, which was called AIX, also working on the kernel and managing other programmers working on the kernel.
And can you just briefly explain what the kernel is?
Right, the kernel is the center of the operating system, so it actually controls the piece of software that controls the whole computer. So it gets down to the bit level where it's actually really everything that goes on in the computer has to go through the kernel.
And what did you do after
Through the
IBM?
kernel.
After IBM, I founded a startup company.
What was the name of that startup company?
It was called Secure Online Systems.
And what did Secure Online Systems do?
It was a company that wrote software for mainframe computers running the various versions of the Unix operating system.
And were there any other investors in Secure Online Systems, Inc.?
Yeah, my business partner in that was Sylvester Stallone.
And what eventually happened to Secure Online Systems?
Well, it was, as I said, a software product that ran on mainframe computers running Unix. And
He's a
we actually
social
completed
media
the product and
forensic
it ran
expert.
very well, but mainframes running Unix kind of ceased to exist back then, so we had to shut it down.
So what did you do after the company shut down?
Then I went to work at Sun Microsystems, working on their version of Unix, which is called Solaris.
So you're going to be
Also
observing
working on the
pixels in this one too?
And approximately how long were you there at Sun?
Approximately 5 years.
And did you also work for Drivers Aces, Inc.?
Right. Coincident with that, I also founded another startup called Driver Aces, and we wrote what are called device drivers to run on the Unix operating systems. A device driver actually teaches the computer how to talk to hardware devices, so it also runs within the kernel.
Have you founded any other startups?
Yes.
And what was the other startup? What was at least one of the other startups?
So the last startup I founded was called mailcall.com, M-A-I-L, and that was a startup that allowed you to read and manage your email on your cellular phone before there were smartphones. So a computerized voice would read you your email and you could speak a reply into the phone or send it to a fax machine, basically let you manage your email on the road.
And what happened to
Mail
mailcall.com?
I sold that to a public company in 2000.
Grant Chill.
And what'd you do after that?
After that, I ended up working at Equifax, one of the 3 credit bureaus in the United States, running software development for their internet marketing division.
You know, we got to get through the foundation first, y'all. Got to see where it's going.
And how long were you in that position?
Until 2005.
If Elaine
What
was up
happened in
there.
2005?
In 2005, I was asked to run what's called a monitorship for the DC District Court for two cases, U.S. versus Microsoft and New York et al. Versus Microsoft, the two largest antitrust cases in U.S. history. So I was responsible for running that organization. I hired 93 people over 6.5 years to perform that monitorship.
And what type of work were you doing in that monitorship?
Highly technical work, looking at all of Microsoft's documents and source code and things like that. I can't talk too much about it because of a protective order, but I had special master powers in those matters.
And you said you were
master
in that
powers.
position for 6.5 years?
Correct.
So that takes us to about 2013, is that right?
It was 11.
2011, okay.
Elaine got cut
And
off. Huh?
what did you do? What did you do in 2011?
In 2011, I didn't do much until 2013 when I took the role as a director at Berkeley Research Group.
Okay, and that's your current position, correct?
Correct.
And what are your responsibilities at Berkeley Research Group?
So I do all sorts of things. Generally, I consult. I do software projects and manage software projects and architect them. But I also do things like this, where
This is a
I'm
heard witness.
consulting in litigation and sometimes
team witness.
testifying in litigation.
Have you taught any courses?
Yes, I'm an adjunct professor at Nova Southeastern University.
And what classes do you teach there?
I teach computer security and the Unix operating system environment, although since COVID I haven't been doing that.
And have you published any scholarly articles?
Yes, I have 2 published articles, one related to computer security and another relating to antitrust enforcement using technology.
And what experience do you have in statistical or forensic analysis of social media?
A bunch of the consulting work I've done involves analyzing data from social media. Most of them have been consulting for litigation. Some of them are consulting for non-litigation. Yeah.
And is that work both in civil and criminal matters?
Yes.
And could you describe the work just a bit more in terms of what you've performed regarding statistical or forensic analysis of social media?
I can't talk about the specific cases because I haven't testified on them, and some of them are awaiting indictment, most likely. But in general, it's really the same sort of stuff I've been doing here, analyzing data from the social networks.
And what social media platforms have you performed forensic analysis?
All of the major ones:
And what are the major ones?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Reddit.
How much of your expert work is for plaintiffs versus work for defendants?
Well, I don't consider myself working for either plaintiff or defendant. I take my role as an independent expert extremely seriously. But looking at whose counsel has hired me over the 9 or so years I've been doing this, it's almost exactly equal.
And how many times have you been a consulting expert?
Including litigation and non-litigation, hundreds.
How many times have you been qualified in court, arbitration, or in sworn court testimony to provide expert testimony?
8 times.
Have you ever been disqualified as an expert by a court?
No.
Do you believe that your testimony will be helpful in assisting the jury understand the facts of this case?
I do.
Your Honor, at this time, I tender Mr. Schnell as an expert in the fields of statistical and forensic analysis of social media.
Any objection?
Your Honor, can we be heard?
Do you want to voir dire?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can voir dire.
Thanks.
All right, they're trying to establish him as an expert witness for social media forensics.
Sir, my name's Wayne Dennison. Good afternoon.
I don't know if Wade, you're here.
You made here an analysis of certain tweets and hashtags, right?
Right.
And you made no effort to connect those tweets and hashtags to the statements being
I did.
made by Adam Waldman.
I'll sustain the objection. The voir dire is just for his qualifications as an expert.
Can we be heard, Your Honor?
If you want to come forward,
Thank you.
that's fine.
Kind of voir dire before they establish that he's an expert witness and can speak on professionally known things. So you can't just be throwing things out there like these super friend witnesses have been. So far, this guy, I got special master powers written down. Wait. Yep, that's what I wrote down. Special master powers. Apparently. Check into the stream, like the video, spam those reactions. This is still the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation trial that it's going to go into next week. Jury instructions on the 27th. I got a date and a timeline. Hey, how you doing, Lori? Good to see you. When they approach the judge, the microphone gets muted. So there's no audio right now. You're not missing anything.
All right. So, Mr. Dennison, do you have any objection to him moving in as an expert?
No.
All right. Then I'll move him in as an expert in statistical and forensic analysis of social media. Okay?
He is
Yes, sir, your
deemed
question.
expert.
Mr. Schnell, what were you asked to do in this matter?
So I was asked to do several things. I used the official Twitter APIs to bring in data over several different time spans. Initially, it was April of 2020 to January of 2021, and analyzed various hashtags and things like that.
And what is significant about April 2020?
I understand that April 2020 is related to the alleged defamatory statements by Mr. Waldman.
And
Hey, Suze.
you talked about APIs. What does that mean?
So API stands for Application Programming Interface. That is a service that's provided by companies like Twitter so that professionals can write programs to query Twitter to ask for various things. In this case, I use two of their APIs. One of them is called the Search API, and that allows you to give search terms, and it will return all the tweets containing those search terms through a certain date range. The other one is called a Counts API, and I use that, again, through a certain date range to return any tweet that contained that hashtag.
And
I should add that it may not be obvious why you need to do this, but if you just do a search on Twitter itself, it's not going to return everything. It's going to return a subset of what is out there. But using these APIs, which you pay a lot of money for, they sort of guarantee that you'll almost guarantee that you'll get everything.
And you mentioned hashtags.
Gotta pay to
I know
unlock
a lot of
your
people know
algorithm.
what those are, but for those who don't, what's a hashtag?
Well, hashtags are a function of Twitter. They're really just part of the text of a tweet or a profile, and it's convenient to put things in hashtags so that when somebody searches, they can search for a particular hashtag and it'll come up.
And did you choose particular hashtags to search for?
I did.
And how did you choose which hashtags to use?
Well, initially I was looking at tweets that would be negative towards Ms. Heard. So I looked through tweets that were negative towards Ms. Heard, and I found that a super majority of them were using one of four different hashtags.
Oh, is
And
that
so
where this is
overall, what
going?
did your analysis find regarding negative hashtags about Ms. Heard from April 2020 until the end of January 2021?
Well, there were over 1,243,000 and change
Is that okay?
uses of those hashtags during that time frame you just mentioned.
And did you perform an analysis of the negative hashtags from April 2020 until January 2022?
All
Yes,
the
I did.
negative social
And what was
media that
the
Amber
result of
Heard's
that?
received.
There were over another million, so 2.38 million, I think.
And how did you determine that the tweets were negative about Ms. Heard?
Well, I hadn't been asked that until later on in this, but I didn't think that would be in controversy. I mean, some of these hashtags are pretty rude, and it would really surprise me that anyone would think that they wouldn't be negative towards Ms. Heard. But when I was asked about it later, I actually took a random sampling and looked at them and could not find any that were not negative towards Ms. Heard.
And what was the random sampling that you used?
I did 2 of them. They were 1,000 each.
And how did you determine which 1,000 tweets to use to review in each search?
I wrote a program that truly selected them at random.
How do you know what of
And
a bot?
in
or
your
not?
experience, is 2,000 tweets a meaningful sample?
If they're chosen at random in this universe, yes.
How many were bots?
In addition to the 4 hashtags for Ms. Heard, did you review any other? Did you look at any other hashtags?
I did.
And what type of hashtags did you look for?
I looked at what I found to be 6 hashtags that would be negative towards Mr. Depp.
Okay, but Michelle, could you put up demonstrative 1, which is on the 5th page of attachment 4 of Mr. Schnell's expert designation. Mr. Schnell, did you create this chart?
I did.
And what data is this chart based on?
This is based on the search API from Twitter, and it rolls up the number of tweets with the various hashtags by month of these 2 years. 3 years.
Your Honor, I'd like to make this a demonstrative Schnell demonstrative 1, or do you want it to be a?
If I could get it one of the numbers, since it's going to be part of the record, just.
Okay, can we call it Schnell demonstrative 1, and then I will give you a number?
Well, the last number I have is 1837.
This is-
I don't know.
Do we know if that's the last?
This is Ron Schnell.
Can we make it-
He's a
can we-
social media expert.
How about we make it 1900? That way it's not. Can we just
He
make it
has
1900?
super master
Okay.
powers and
1900
hashtags.
it is. Any objections to demonstrative?
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can publish that.
Dang. Apparently, you want this guy to set up your Twitter account.
And is this the chart you made, Mr. Schnell?
It is.
Okay. And at the top here, there are hashtags that are in yellow. You see that?
I do.
Okay. And if we go all the way to the right, well, first let's scroll over to the left here. I apologize. You see,
Hashtags
in
have made its
2020,
way into a
there's the
courtroom,
months of
dude.
June and July.
I do.
Okay. And what are these columns? First, tell the jury what they represent.
I'm ready to hop off this
So
timeline.
each of these is the
Let's go
number
back
of
to the old
tweets
one.
with the hashtags,
or
with
whatever.
the corresponding
I don't even know.
hashtag during that month.
Okay.
New timeline.
And if we look at the first one in yellow, you see that first hashtag, the 4th one over?
I do.
And are there any, what does it show from 2018 frankly, to July of 2020?
There were none.
And then what happens in August of 2020?
Well, there's a remarkable jump from July to August of 2020. It goes from 0 to 13,878.
And if we scroll to the right, the last
big number.
3 hashtags, which are highlighted or
You know what's going to be ironic is all of these hashtags are going to
what
come
did
back
your
right
analysis
now.
show?
Look at Twitter.
Well, you can see that June
going on
is
Twitter right
about
now?
at its steady state.
All of these
In July,
hashtags are
there's
going to be
also a
big
remarkable
again. This is clown.
jump.
This is ridiculous.
And that's for all 3 of those hashtags?
That's correct.
And the hashtags, if we
Go to
the
trending,
hashtags
let's
that
see
are in
when
blue
they're
are
gonna
the
get
ones
there.
related to Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Oh, by the way, what is your understanding of when the last alleged defamatory statement was made by Mr. Depp through Mr. Waldman?
My understanding is that it was the end of June of that year.
Of 2020?
Yes.
$5 super chat, thank you.
Now, looking at the hashtags that are highlighted in blue for Mr. Depp, for the months of November and December of 2018 and January of 2019, what does your analysis show?
Ah, dang.
Well, I see a remarkable jump in November of 2018,
That's because it was at the peak of the Me Too movement.
and then it starts to, well, it goes way down in December of 18 and January of 19.
And do you know when Ms. Heard wrote the op-ed in this matter?
My understanding
She's the reason it
is that it was December of
tanked.
2018.
And if we go to
Dang, from we are with you to
November
we
of
just don't like
2020
you.
for the
In
hashtags
how many
related
months?
to Mr. Depp,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
if you see
6,
the
7,
difference
8,
between
9, 10,
October
11,
of 2020 and November of 2020,
20
What do you
months
see there?
went from we're with
I
you
also
to
see
we
a
don't
large
like you.
jump
Damn.
from October to November of 2020.
Okay. And if we look at the last hashtag in blue that says Johnny Depp is a wife beater, what does that show in terms? What did your analysis find in terms of tweets with those hashtags?
It looks to me that also, I mean, there are none prior to, well, little here and there.
2,000
They're single
tweets
digit
is
ones,
a
but
like,
prior to November
what?
of
I would go the
2020,
47,000
there's
is like
basically none, and then it jumps up
or
to
in the
over
13,000, but a 2,000 tweets.
And you know what happened in November of 2020?
My understanding is that's when the UK trial ended.
Okay, we can take
That's
this down.
worthy of a. What was that?
And can you put up demonstrative 2, which will make 1901?
I'm looking at the top trending stuff
Well,
right
identifies
now on
1901.
Twitter, and they have like tens of thousands of retweets.
Any objection?
The second
No,
most
Your Honor.
trending thing
All
right
right,
now
can you
is
go on?
Rihanna with 63,000 retweets. Something with 2,000 tweets and shit is not even like. What are they doing right now?
And Mr.
This is
Mr.
ridiculous.
Banya,
I need to
what
smoke.
data is this chart based on?
Oh my. Dude,
Oh,
this is
I did the same thing. Mr. Schnell, what data
I
is this
believe
chart
this is
based on?
happening.
This chart is actually based on the data we just looked at, but out until January of 2022. And it's just another way of displaying the numbers in graphical form so that we can see peaks and valleys.
And what are the dotted lines?
So if you look at the top, you can see that the dashed lines are the negative hashtags towards Ms. Heard, and the solid ones are the negative hashtags towards Mr. Depp.
And what is being shown here? In your analysis, what is shown with the tweets related to Ms. Heard?
Well, you can see that there's a huge spike in February of 2020, which I believe Mr. Waldman just testified that that's when he leaked an audio tape of some kind. There's also a notable, remarkable spike in July of 2020, in November of 2020, and then in March of 2021.
And the spike in February 2020, that came before the alleged defamatory statements, correct?
Which one?
The spike in February 2020.
That is correct.
And even though that spike came in before the alleged defamatory statements, even taking account for that spike, what time period has more negative tweets about Ms. Heard, before or after April 2020?
Right. So even taking into account this really large spike in February of 2020, and you look at from the beginning of 2018 until the beginning of 2022, there are a majority of the negative tweets are between April of 2020.
If y'all don't think the court of public opinion matters, here you go. The court of public opinion is in the courtroom
Do you
right now.
recall at your
They're
deposition
clowning
being
when they're
asked
like, we don't care about the court
that
of
a
public
spike
opinion.
in,
My
that
freaking
a spike in
ass,
negative
dude.
hashtags occurring before
This is
April
literally the
8th,
court of
right
public
before April
opinion in the
8th,
courtroom.
2020?
Objection, hearsay.
I would ask about his attorney.
Overruled.
Oh my
Good.
god.
I remember questions regarding particular dates. Yes.
And what's your understanding as to why there was more negative tweets in April 6th and April 7th than April 8th, 2020?
Objection, no foundation.
Was there more negative tweets in April 6th, on April 6th and April 7th than in April 8th, 2020, as it relates to Ms. Heard?
Right. If you look at the day-by-day counts, which I supplied to Mr. Depp, and you can see that there's a spike that begins on April 6th.
Hashtag algorithms are literally
goes
public opinion.
for a few days. So and April 6th is, to my understanding, before what people are calling the alleged
What the daily
defamatory
consciousness of the day
And
is.
did you look at the tweets for April 6th and April 7th?
I did.
And what did you find?
I found that there are Waldman statements that are the same as on the 8th, on the 6th, and the 7th. The Daily Mail on the 6th, and Vanity Fair on the 7th.
And what terms were being used?
Well, hoax is certainly used in each of them. I think abuse hoax is used in one of them. I don't have it in front of me, but generally speaking, in the 7th, I think it's the same exact terms that are used in the 1 and the 8th, but the 6th may be slightly different, but it has the word hoax.
Okay. If we can go to the second page of this demonstrative.
They're trying to
What's being
establish
shown in the
all
second
of the
page of this
negative
demonstrative?
social media
So this is generally, it's the same data as the first one, but I've
aimed at
removed
Amber Heard.
one hashtag, the Justice for Johnny Depp hashtag, because it kind of overwhelms all the others because there are so many of them. And by removing it, it sort of rescales the graph and you can see the others much better. And even though they looked really tiny in the previous page, you can see that they're big numbers, over 100,000 and stuff. So this shows, and if you look between the two, you can see that the curves are the same. So it shows like a mathematical correlation between all the hashtags.
So what do you mean by mathematical correlation?
Well, they're correlated. You can see the numbers go up and down at the same place.
So I'm understanding the hashtags are essentially all going up and down at the same times?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. And can we put up demonstrative exhibit 3?
Which would make 1902.
1902.
That's
Yes,
fine.
thank you.
All right, any objection to 1902?
Not as a demonstrative.
Yes, okay. You can publish that.
Mr. Schnell, did you create this
What are the
chart?
numbers now?
And what does this chart show?
So what I did was I took the data that I supplied to Mr. Depp, which was the original data from April of 2020 through January of 2021, and I searched it for certain key terms, specifically hoax, fake, and fraud. And that's what it's representing. The top part, anyway.
And the top part, if you look at for hoax, fake, and fraud and this is within the negative hashtags or misheard?
Right. This is only searching through the ones that have one of these 4 hashtags in them.
Okay. And if you look at the total, oops, I'm putting that in black. Let's
Get
you
it
saw
together,
the
dude.
line there. What's the total number of times it was used in the negative tweets, either hoax, fake, or fraud?
81,121.
And did you perform any other searches on the data?
Yes.
And what searches did you perform?
So I also looked in that same data for references to Waldman by itself, or Wald, and then followed by anything followed by Mignon or Minion, depending how you want to pronounce it, sort of a portmanteau of Waldman and filet mignon, I guess, or Minions, and looked for those in the same data.
And in terms of the percentage of the amount of times Waldman or Waldmignon was used in the negative hashtags from April 2020 through, is it January 2021?
The percent?
Yeah, what's the percentage?
Yeah, so I found
Why
over
does this have
25%
any
of
relevance to
the
anything?
negative hashtag tweets, or 1 out of every 4 on average, had either Waldman or Waldmignon.
And I see you ran searches for hoax, fake, fraud, rather than abuse hoax in quotes or sexual violence hoax in quotes. Why didn't you run those searches?
Objection compound.
Overruled.
So so if I had put them in quotes like that, say abuse hoax in quotes, that would require that it show up in exactly that way, with the same spacing and the same order. So if it said something like there was abuse and there was a hoax, it wouldn't get caught. So if I take the quotes out and search for them separately, search for things separately, that'll cover it and make sure that I catch everything.
And based on your analysis of these searches within the negative hashtags, what do the results of these searches mean?
Well, obviously I can't read what's in people's minds, but when I read the disclosure of Mr. Depp's expert, Mr. Banya, he stated that if these terms, particularly the Waldman term,
Objection hearsay.
He's an expert.
No, overruled.
if these terms had shown up a lot of times in the negative hashtag tweets, then that could show that they were paraphrasing the impetus of why people tweeted these. So I sort of adopted Mr. Banya's opinion on that and found this large number. So I agree with Mr. Depp's expert that this could show a substantial correlation.
And to what level of confidence do you hold the opinions you just provided to the jury?
To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty.
Thank you, Mr. Schnell. I have no further
All
questions.
right, cross-examination.
Thank you for your hashtag expertise. Cross-examination.
Sir, this is the first time that you've testified as an expert as in the field of statistical and forensic analysis of social media, isn't it?
I've consulted on litigation for it, but it never got to testimony. That's correct.
This is your first testimony.
Testimony, yes.
Right. And you've never been involved in a defamation case before.
That's correct.
And you're being compensated for your time here today and the work you did, correct?
Berkeley Research Group is being compensated, yes.
At $600 an hour.
That's what they're getting paid.
Right. And you're aware that Mr. Depp is being sued based on allegedly defamatory statements. What are the dates of those statements?
My understanding is there was something around April 8th, I believe April 27th and June 24th, somewhere in the end of June.
Okay. And where do you understand those statements to have resided?
In the public media.
In any particular article or?
I didn't consider that.
It's the people.
So you're not offering an opinion on how widely the articles that contain those statements were read?
That's correct.
And you're not offering an opinion as
thing.
to how many people actually saw the language?
I get
that's
more
been
interactions
attributed
than
to Mr.
Amber
Wall?
Heard did with that negative
Only
press.
a minimum number of people who could have
And
seen
I'm
it
mids,
based on
and she's in
tweets
like
that
Hollywood
referenced it.
films.
Okay. And you don't know even where those references appear in the articles?
I'm not sure what you mean.
There are statements by Mr. Waldman that appear in articles. Do you understand that?
I do.
Do you know in what portion of the articles the statements appear?
I've looked at the articles, and from that, I've seen where they appear.
And where, in general, do they appear? In the middle, the end? What's your sense?
That I'm not sure of. I mean, the ones I looked at on the 6th and 7th, I think they were towards the top.
All right. So you testified that you reviewed a number of hashtags that you deemed were negative towards Ms. Heard. That's right?
Yes.
Yeah. And the four you picked, at least the negative ones, Justice for Johnny Depp, that's from one of them, right?
That's right.
Amber Heard is an abuser, that's one of them.
That is one of them.
We just don't like you, Amber, that's one of them.
That is one of them.
And the last one was Amber Turd, right?
That is another one.
And these four hashtags you identified and searched for, you don't believe they have any connection, or you testified that you have no connection to these three Waldman statements. The hashtags aren't connected to Waldman, right?
Well, I did an additional analysis that did show how many of those had Waldman connected to them, and I found that 1 out of 4 of them did.
Right. But when you were deposed, you were asked whether these were related, these particular hashtags were related to any of the Waldman statements, and you said no at that time.
I said more than that. I said I didn't know, and then I said I'm basing I'm looking at Mr. Banya's opinion where he says they would be if they were in large number, and I'm adopting his opinion and agreeing with him that they must be connected.
So you're adopting an opinion that hasn't been rendered in this case yet by anybody but you.
Well, I know that Mr. Banya
Has testified.
Okay, what I'm saying is I know that Mr. Banya's disclosure says that he is expected to come to that opinion.
All right. But the only person who's ever expressed this opinion to date in this courtroom is you, correct?
I wouldn't know. I haven't watched everything. I've watched a bit.
So
but
you're adopting your own opinion.
no, I'm adopting the opinion that I read in Mr. Banya's disclosure.
All right. And that's not the opinion you had during your deposition.
I think I did make reference in my deposition to what Mr. Banya said, and that I agreed with it.
All right. And you indicated in deposition you didn't take into account statements made in the media, correct?
Made in what? I couldn't hear.
You said you did not take into account in your analysis statements made in the media.
Media. Yes, in the analysis where I gathered data and decided which data to gather, I did not take into account statements in the media.
All right. So you looked at data, you produced charts, you did analysis relating to the data, but you had no reason at the time you did this to consider any particular statements. Isn't that true?
That's true. I think that's an appropriate scientific methodology to not to first gather as much data as possible and then drill down on the data.
All right. And the Twitter data you collected shows that the 4 hashtags you identified were in existence before Mr. Waldman made the first statement in April 2020, right?
420 people
That's
in the
correct.
chat. Spark up.
In very small number.
But Justice for Johnny Depp has been around since 2013, correct?
That sounds correct.
Yeah. Amber Heard is an abuser, and Amber Turd first appeared in 2016, correct?
I don't
Twice.
recall, actually.
2 times now.
Do you recall if there was any portion of Mr. Waldman's statement that made any reference to Amber Turd?
Not that I see.
3 times. Let's go.
People can form a negative view of Ms. Heard without reading Mr. Waldman's statements, correct?
People can form a negative opinion of anyone without reading anything. That's correct.
And you didn't
Turds in the
consider
chat.
whether there was negative publicity around Ms. Heard other than the Waldman statements.
Well, what I did was to report on correlation with these hashtags and certain search terms in particular. I wasn't trying to read anyone's mind as to why they used them.
You didn't form any opinion that of the million plus tweets that you looked at were connected in some way to Mr. Waldman's statements.
I did eventually, yes.
You did eventually after you read somebody else's report relative to testimony that hasn't been given here.
Well, I did it before my deposition.
All right. You have a demonstrative that counsel played for you. Can we put up plaintiff's 1901 again? This is yours, right?
Correct.
Yeah. The biggest spikes, by far the biggest spikes here, are attributable to what hashtag?
Justice for Johnny Depp hashtag.
Yeah. And there are spikes that existed considerably in
Where's the Amber Turd
before
spike?
Mr. Waldman's statement. You were asked about that by counsel.
One of them did. That was the date that Mr. Waldman leaked the audio tape.
The biggest spike was before the statements.
Right, the date he leaked the audio.
And then there were many statements that, or there are many hashtags or uses of the hashtag that follow the statements.
You'll have to be more specific.
Well, so you looked at 1.2 million of these hashtags, right?
Right.
In your chart, didn't 980,000 of these plus belong to Justice for Johnny Depp?
That sounds about right. You'd have to show me, but
980,000,
I'll take your
dude.
word for it.
All right. But the vast majority of them were Justice for Johnny Depp.
A majority of them were.
Well, it wasn't the majority so
even
large that you had to
close.
draw another chart.
The reason for drawing another chart is because the numbers were high at particular points, so you wouldn't be able to see the other hashtags.
Right. Literally, this is your chart, and all of the other activity at the bottom you can barely see in comparison to the hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp?
Right, as I testified, you can
Poll in
barely
the chat.
see
Let's
them
do our own
because
poll
of
quick.
the spikes in the Justice for Johnny Depp hashtag, but when you look at the other chart, you can see that those others are still very large numbers.
So you're not offering any opinion as to what caused these spikes?
That's correct.
Right. So you're not opining as to why these spikes are there?
I'm only talking about correlation.
Right. You're talking about a mathematical connection.
That's right.
Right. And you don't purport to be in anybody's head such that you know why they did a particular post with a particular hashtag.
That's correct.
All right. There's a second spike that appears to be in July of 2020.
Yes, the pointer was pointing to a different one, but yes.
Yeah. Were you aware there was a trial in the UK in 2020
I'm aware.
and in July?
You're saying it was in July?
No, but as of the time of that spike, there was publicity around a trial, correct?
I don't know how much publicity there was. I know the trial was going on then.
All right.
That's what happens when things go trending on social media, dude. What kind of social media expert is
There are
this?
a number of things called out in your chart relative to particular dates: December 17th, February 11th, February 14th. You see all those?
I do.
And your chart makes
This is Amber's team just
absolutely
mad there
no
was
reference to and does not
There's no
identify
connection to Johnny Depp.
the dates of any of the Waldman statements, does it, sir?
No, it doesn't call those out if that's what you're asking.
It calls out a whole bunch of other dates, but nothing relative to the Waldman statements.
Correct.
All right. All right. At some point, you ran searches for additional search terms: hoax, fraud. I think you said fake. And then you don't know why those terms appeared, do you?
I'm not sure what you mean by that question. Are you asking me?
You could not perform a scientific analysis of the reason why those terms appeared in the tweets you were looking at.
Right. I could only show mathematical correlation.
Right?
Duh.
You could show a correlation.
You can't tap
but
into the consciousness
you don't
of the
have any
people.
idea why they're there.
I
So
can't get into
stupid,
people's
dude.
heads.
Trending shit is the consciousness of the
Just
day.
because the
Like people
tweet
just on the
contains one
same
of the
page
terms
with
does
current
not mean
event.
the tweet was in some way prompted by Mr. Waldman, right?
Well, there are a few things I searched for. The ones you just mentioned, and then the Waldman and Waldman-Yon terms. So, it's not that big a stretch to say that it's
You're
related
on the
to
bad end
Mr.
of
Waldman
trending,
if it's
or
his
you end
name,
up on
and
Shade Room for
Waldman-Yon
something,
or Minion.
or something. Shit, just gotta
Wait a
take
minute,
that L.
It's the new standard. It's not that big a
Can't
stretch.
stop it.
Or the
I'm trying to speak.
standard is
I'm
scientific
trying to.
certainty,
If you go
right?
viral trending for something bad,
So you're not suggesting
Try
that
to
you
take that
know
to court, dude.
why
This
Mr.
is
Waldman's
junk.
name appear in any of these tweets.
Well, if you look at the tweets that have Waldman-Yon, and I looked at a large sample of them.
Just a large sample was 2,000 out of 1,000,002.
No, I looked at more than that of these. But that's another thing that I wouldn't expect to be in controversy. When people are saying that they're part of the Wald Minions or things like that,
the Wald Minions.
I would expect everybody to agree without arguing that it has to do with Mr. Waldman.
And nobody asked whether it had to do with Mr. Waldman. I'm wondering, how do you know that it had anything to do with Mr. Waldman's statements?
But I was under the impression, I was informed that nobody really knew who Mr. Waldman was before all of this. So I wouldn't expect it to be anything else. I didn't think it was in controversy.
It wasn't in controversy whether everyone knew who Mr. Waldman was. Is that your testimony?
No, I'm saying it wasn't in controversy that that if somebody was suddenly talking about him, that it had to do with this case.
All right, but again, it's not, did it have to do with this case? did it have to do with the allegedly defamatory statements? You have no idea, do you, sir?
I can't get into anyone's mind. I can only
No,
talk
they,
about
what I
science
just
of it.
said, dude.
Right.
You cannot tap into the consciousness
and so
of
you
everyone. It's just
identify
it's
all
what's
of
trending
these,
for the day.
Hashtags
Dude, there's. Oh, I'm gonna go nuts.
as negative towards Miss Heard, right?
Right.
You know what people are
Justice for
thinking?
Johnny Depp is not negative towards Miss Heard, is it?
No, but the tweets that use that hashtag are.
No, but the hashtag itself, the hashtag that predominates through your analysis, is not in fact negative towards Miss Heard.
I'm not opining on the hashtag itself. I'm talking about the tweets that contain that hashtag.
But the data was about the.
But the hashtag itself is not negative.
Go ahead, lawyer.
That's not part of my opinion, one way or the other.
Do you have an opinion as to whether justice for Johnny Depp is a good thing?
That's not part of my assignment.
Okay, but you'll agree with me justice in general is a good thing?
Big fan of justice.
All right, me too. No further questions.
All right, redirect. Okay, yes, sir.
Mr. Schnell, you reviewed a large sampling of tweets of justice for Johnny Depp, correct?
I did.
And the tweets that had the hashtag justice for Johnny Depp, how many of them were negative toward Miss Heard?
All of them.
And what percentage of the tweets with negative hashtags between April 2020 and January 31st, 2021 contain the terms Waldman or Waldman-Yon?
Overruled, I'll allow.
Over 25%. 1 out of 4.
And in your analysis, how far in time do the tweets containing the terms Waldman or Waldman-Yon go? Like how far to now?
Well,
Beyond the scope of cross?
He was asking about.
Overruled.
So I think I disclosed at my deposition that I looked further into 2022 and found that it continued to go on. I didn't see any end to it at all.
Okay. And based on your analysis, again, what period of time had more negative tweets
Redirect
against
came
Ms.
out the
Heard
gate
before or
flat,
after
dude.
April 2020?
It was clearly double as many from April to 2021.
And that's even including the February 2020 spike, correct?
That's right. So and that happened before April, obviously. So even if you put that in there, it's still a lot more after April of 2020. And there are fewer months in that time period. I think there are 20 or 15 months in that time period and 27 months in the first part.
And based on your analysis, what, if any, end do you see to the negative tweets toward Ms. Heard?
Objection, no foundation.
Based on his analysis up until the time?
I'll sustain the objection.
Did you see any, based on your analysis, did you, at the end of the time of your analysis, what was happening with the negative tweets toward Ms. Heard?
What he's gonna
To
quote
continue to go on.
the words.
Mr. Schnell, after your cross-examination, have any of your opinions in this matter changed?
No, they've not.
Thank you.
All right.
Got him stuttering.
Great. So you
over
can
there.
have a seat in the courtroom or you're free to go. Okay, sir? Thank you.
Oh,
All right, your next witness?
so did my notes
Okay, sure.
change? Let me see. Special master powers. No, special master hashtag powers. John Schnell. That was the expert witness on social media forensics or social media algorithm understandings with hashtags. The dude can testify on the numbers, sure. He can talk about the numbers of the amounts of tweets with the hashtags, but he cannot testify to the reasonings why those tweets were written. It's not like he's a psychic and can understand why so many people were tweeting about the same thing on the same day. They weren't coming from an article or like a mainstream news source. It was trending on Twitter, trending hashtags. That'd be like if all y'all decided on one hashtag right now and then went and did it on Twitter. Hashtag special master powers. Can't believe that they just tried to put that into a civil court case. I hope not, because that would mean then the court of public opinion then is relevant in a court trial, but it got shut down seemingly here. Didn't make it anywhere. Like the video if you guys haven't. Make sure you're following the page on Facebook. You're subscribed to the channel on YouTube so you can chat. If you want to be a part of our live chat, just subscribe or follow. We're on approach right now. Poll numbers. So I said justice for who? Johnny Depp or Amber Heard? We got 98%. Nope. Sorry. 96% on YouTube to 4. And on Facebook, you got 98% for Johnny Depp to 2%. So that's the numbers in our polls. I don't think there's been one piece of relevant testimony at all. From Amber's friends, it was a whole bunch of I thought I saw, I think I remember. That expert witness was a social media forensic expert. A lot of this trial has been about Johnny Depp's addiction. Johnny Depp's addiction's been on trial more so than the allegations. Would love for the hashtag data from Mercado Media. Probably a little bit higher than the negative social media for Amber Heard. Which that lawyer argued was there was more, what did he say, 190,000? There was a very large number in the triple digits, hundreds of thousands for justice for Johnny Depp. And there was about 2,300 negative Amber Heard tweets going based upon the numbers. There's social media content creators that get more negative interaction than that on a daily basis. On a daily basis. Right now, the lawyers are on approach. Mike gets muted. I hope Camille gives a closing argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will be calling Michelle Mulroney by deposition designation and restart.
Okay. Skip some more.
Another deposition video. This is Michelle Mulroney, Amber's former attorney.
All right, you just want to spell the last name for me?
It's Mulrooney.
All right. Okay.
Either she spelled it wrong or they spelled it wrong in the article.
State your name and address for the record.
Michelle Mulroney, Los Angeles, California, 90067.
Ms. Mulroney, what is your occupation?
I'm a partner at Venable LLP, an attorney practice.
Could you just please describe give me a brief description of your educational background and work history?
Okay, I attended USC and received my undergraduate degree in 1982. And then I again attended USC and received my law degree in 1985. I then worked for Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher until 1991. And then I worked for an entertainment law firm that was originally called Armstrong Hirsch.
She doing this in a
When I
science
joined
classroom?
Then later morphed into several names.
What is like? What's going on
then
behind her?
In 2011,
Cabinets all open.
I joined Venable LLP.
Humidifier
as
on
a
the
partner.
counter.
Thank
What the
you.
hell?
What are your areas of practice and expertise?
I'm head of the estate planning, the West Coast estate planning group for Venable.
Must be in one of the penthouses.
And does that estate planning involve any aspect of marital estate planning, such as things like prenups and postnups, prenuptials, postnuptials?
Yes, we frequently do prenups, cohabitation, and postnup agreements for our clients.
Would you please briefly describe what a prenuptial and a postnuptial is?
A prenuptial agreement is where spouses contract on the economics of their marriage before they are married, and they discuss things as the nature, and they contract the things as the nature of the property, community separate, etc., and also things like spousal support. And in a postnup, the clients do that after they're married. They contract on the same issues.
Do you regularly represent actors?
Yes.
I'm asking very narrowly, did there come a time when Amber Heard contacted you for representation respecting a prenup or a postnup agreement?
At some point, I was contacted about an Amber Heard prenup.
Ms. Mulroney, I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 3, and it's an email from you to a Dana Lowry. Do you know who Dana Lowry is?
Yes.
Amber Turd is trending in the United
Could you
Kingdom
please
now.
tell us who Dana Lowry is?
She's a family law attorney practicing in Los Angeles.
And this is dated Monday, February 2, 2015, and says, I look forward to working with you. Please send me, this is from you, please send me the bullet points for the economics of the deal. When you are back
United
in the
Kingdom,
office
y'all are funny.
tomorrow, I will have Amber's business manager get her financial information to me ASAP. I also like to exchange 2 years of tax returns, but not attach them. Is this your general practice? Let me know. Think. Who did Dana Lowry represent?
Johnny Depp.
I take it Amber in the actual document is Amber Heard. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if I just direct your attention to the top of the email where it says February, get control here. February 2, 2015. What, if anything, does this do to refresh your recollection on when approximately you were contacted about representing Amber Heard in connection with the prenup?
It makes the approximate date more clear to me.
Okay. And based on this, when approximately were you contacted to represent Amber Heard in connection with the prenup or postnup?
The early part of February, the late part of January, or the early part of February 2015.
Ms. Mulroney, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as exhibit number 4. And it is an email from you to Dana Lowry, which is Mr. Depp's counsel, correct?
During this time period, correct.
And it's dated Tuesday, February 3. And I'm going to scroll down first so we get the earliest part of it. And the first part of it is an email from Dana Lowry to you dated February 3rd at 10:13 and says J/A deal points. Do you know what J/A means? I'm going to take you, first of all, to the bottom part, which is the J/deal points. Do you have an understanding of what J/A means?
I believe it means Johnny/Amber deal points.
Absent a prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement, is California what we call a common law property state?
No,
What is it?
it's a community property state.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Generally means that all earnings after the date of marriage are owned 50, each party has an undivided 50% interest in those earnings. Yes.
What was your understanding of the purpose of the confidentiality agreement?
It's very standard when you're doing a prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement, when either party is disclosing their assets, that they ask for a confidentiality agreement.
You respond on February 17, Dana, I have forwarded to Amber. She is filming a movie, but hope to connect with her by the end of the week. I will keep trying to move forward. I'm asking you what you meant by I will keep trying to move forward.
I assume I meant that we're trying to get a postnuptial agreement signed between the parties, and that's what I was hired for.
Show you what has been marked as exhibit number 7. And I'm going to start again with going down to show you where the stream is here. And it says, I'll read, on February 17, that's the same email we've seen a couple times now, where she's attaching the confidentiality agreement, telling you she'll have a draft post-nup agreement, but she's getting the signed confidentiality agreement first. And then I'm going to direct your attention to the very top part, and that is Wednesday, February 18. And it's from you to Dana Lowry, and it says, Amber is sending the signed confidentiality agreement to me. I assume I will receive all the underlying financials and a list of anticipated future revenue streams and documentation pertaining thereto. What did you mean by underlying financials and a list of anticipated future revenue streams and documentation pertaining thereto?
I mean, this is typical for an actor. They have profit participations, back ends. I wanted to have a list of what his future revenue would be. He might have had movies booked that he would render services after marriage. I just wanted to see the pro forma.
What did you mean by back ends?
Back end is either profit participations or royalties. Sometimes it's box office bonuses. You just have to look at the underlying agreement on each movie, TV show, etc., to track what the revenue will be from each project.
And why is that relevant?
I want to know what they're going to make during the marriage. I want to know the income during the marriage.
And those are all components of what they make during the marriage?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then you said, I can't really comment on the document until I get this information. What document were you referring to there?
The post-nup agreement that I anticipated she would send.
How much time expired between when you were sent the confidentiality agreement for Amber Heard to sign and when you indicated back to counsel for Mr. Depp that Amber is sending the signed confidentiality agreement to you?
The next day.
What, if any, communication did you receive from Mr. Depp in connection with the post-nup agreement?
I received one telephone call.
And whom did you receive that telephone call from?
Mr. Depp.
Please describe the telephone call from Mr. Depp.
My recollection is that he was very mean, that he called me names, and that he fired me on behalf of them.
When you say that he was very mean, what did you mean?
Well, my only exact recollection is he called me a bitch.
Mr. Depp called you a bitch on that telephone call?
Hearsay,
Yeah.
leading.
What, if any, observations did you make during the telephone call from Mr. Depp, during which time he called you a bitch?
I thought he was under the influence.
Why did you think that?
He was slurring his words, and his speech pattern was similar to my children's speech pattern when they were under him. I was just extremely rattled by the call. I was on the phone for a very short time with him because he was represented by counsel, and I didn't want to be rude and hang up, but I told him I had to hang up. Like after 2 or 3 minutes after I realized what was happening, it took me very off guard, and that's all I remember is that it really shook me up.
After that phone call, did you perform any further services for Ms. Heard in connection with the postnuptial agreement?
No.
Do you recall ever seeing a postnuptial draft agreement?
No.
Has either Ms. Heard or Mr. Depp contacted you at any time after the call with Mr. Depp respecting pursuing a postnuptial agreement?
No.
Who, if anyone, was paying your legal services?
I don't recall.
Was it your understanding that Mr. Depp had the authority to fire you?
No.
Did you tell him that?
I don't recall.
And isn't it true that he wouldn't have had the authority to fire you even if he were paying for your legal services? True?
True.
What, if any, communications did you have with Dana Lowy about your conversation with Mr. Depp after the conversation with Mr. Depp?
I don't recall specifically.
What do you recall generally, if anything?
I do recall that I told her that I was no longer representing him. But I don't know if I did that in writing. Somehow she knew.
But and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you testified that Mr. Depp did not have the authority to fire you, correct?
Who was paying this lawyer?
Ms. Mulroney, when did your attorney-client relationship with Ms. Heard relating to a potential postnuptial agreement terminate?
Shortly after that phone call.
When you say shortly after that phone call, can you give us a time frame of how long it was after the phone call?
Within a few days. Could be one.
He didn't have the power to fire you, correct?
Correct.
Do you have any recollection
Why
of
say?
ever receiving any more communications from Dana Lowry furthering the postnuptial agreement after Johnny Depp called you and told you he was firing you on behalf of Amber and called you names?
No substantive. I recall that there was no more substantive conversations.
Is there any question in your mind that it was Mr. Depp who called you?
No.
Well, that witness testimony was awful again.
Yes, ma'am, your next witness.
Wow.
Yes, Your Honor, we'd like to call the Disney corporate representative.
All right.
Live? The Disney corporate representative, like the guy, the person.
Would you please state your name and your business address for the record?
Tina Newman, Walt Disney Studios Motion Picture Production, live action, 500 South Buena Vista Street, Burbank, California, 91521.
And what is your current occupation?
I'm a production executive.
And what is your job title?
That is my title, production executive. I work in the live action feature division for Disney.
Is it your understanding you're testifying on behalf of Walt Disney Motion Pictures Group?
Yes.
Were you involved in the gathering of the documents responsive to the documents subpoenaed to Disney?
A bunch of interviews with NPCs.
Yes, I did provide some documentation to Alec and his group from our production group.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what I've just highlighted under topic number. It's subpoena duces tecum, paragraph number 2.
They do things, but they don't add to the plot.
And it asks for documents relating to this case, in fact, and then it also says specifically, this specifically includes the op-ed by Ms. Heard and any impact it may have had on the above. And that includes, as it's defined above, including the business relationship with Mr. Depp, including considering Mr. Depp for any work with Disney or future Pirates of the Caribbean role, or a lesser or greater role, a different role, or a different production. Do you recall seeing in any of the documents you reviewed, either being involved as the corporate designee or in preparing as the corporate designee, do you recall seeing an op-ed written by Ms. Heard?
No.
Do you recall in your preparation as the corporate designee of Disney and your review of the documents that were produced by Disney, any document that referred in any manner to the op-ed written by Ms. Heard?
I would say no.
Do you remember seeing in any of the documents you reviewed that were produced by Disney in response to the subpoena duces tecum, the word op-ed in any of those documents?
I don't recall that, no.
Did you have any discussions with anyone at Disney about any future Pirates of the Caribbean role, a lesser or greater role, a different role, or a different production?
No.
Did you have any discussions with anyone at Disney about the impact of the op-ed by Ms. Heard on the relationship between Disney and Mr. Depp, including considering Mr. Depp for any work with Disney, any future Pirates of the Caribbean role, a lesser or greater role, a different role, or a different production?
No.
Do you know whether Mr. Depp is being considered for a role in Pirates 6?
What up, Nathan?
No.
And when you say no, I think I have to probably ask clarification. Does that mean you don't know one way or the other, or he is not being considered?
I don't know one way or the other.
Do you know? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that decision doesn't fall within my job responsibility. It's above my head. It's the best way to say it.
So what is the knowledge you have about Pirates 6?
Like I said, I just know that it's a project that's possibly in development at the studio. That's it.
Do you know whether anyone at Disney has ever even read the op-ed written by Ms. Heard?
No.
Are you aware of anyone
Is this trying to say
else
that
at Disney
the op-ed didn't have an
who
effect
has
on Johnny Depp losing his job?
Of the topic areas
Jobs in Hollywood.
The deposition notice, that's deposition exhibit number 2, that beyond what you know?
I can't honestly say. I can't speak for someone else. like I explained earlier, my knowledge and what my job functionality is at the studio, that plateaus, and there are people that I work under.
This is Luis
And
Newman.
those particular persons may or may not have more knowledge.
She
but I
produced
can't
the
speak
Pirates
on
movies.
behalf of them.
Is Disney aware that Mr. Depp has testified under oath that he would not take another Pirates of the Caribbean franchise role for $300 million and a million alpacas?
No.
Would Disney entertain paying Mr. Depp more than $300 million and provide him with more than a million alpacas to be able to obtain his services for any future Pirates of the Caribbean role?
Vodka or water?
No.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 52 to Alan Horn. Who's that?
He was our co-chairman.
Of Disney?
Yes.
And Alan Bergman, who's he?
Same. He's the other co-chairman of Disney, or was at the time.
And then Sean Bailey, you indicated, was the president?
It's our president of production, correct.
Okay, and then Ricky Strauss, who's he?
I believe at the time he was the head of our marketing group.
And Paul Rader?
Paul Rader is the head of communications.
All right, and this is from Angela Shaw, and it's dated 5/10/2017. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it says, subject HR, Johnny Depp, a star in crisis, and the insane story of his missing millions. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any understanding as to why Angela Shaw was sending this communication to this group, the two co-chairmen, the president, vice president of production, head of communications on this particular day?
I don't know what the intent of the email is, but obviously we have a relationship as a company with Johnny, so I assume that's why she may be bringing it to their attention.
All right, and just to take that a little bit further, given that Disney has a relationship with Johnny Depp, if there is publicity relating to Johnny Depp, whether it be positive or negative, that would be relevant to Disney, would it not?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say how it's relevant to Disney, but given that Angela is part of communications, it's her job to, keep the
I can't say how it's
studio abreast,
relevant.
I guess, of anything concerning the company. So that's about as far as I can read into it.
Okay. And so that's your interpretation of why Angela Shaw sent this to that group of people, was to keep them apprised of this particular article on Johnny Depp. Would you agree?
Yeah, that would be my assumption. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been labeled as exhibit number 53, and it is Disney 114 through 137. And I'm going to ask you if you recognize this document.
Well, it looks like an internal email. It may have been part of the disclosure documents.
This one's from Alan Horn, and I think we've identified Alan Horn before. Well, actually, it starts with, let's start down here. On June 21st, 2018, all right, and then it has a reply from Sean Bailey, sad. Do you see that?
Yes.
What was Mr. Bailey's position with Disney on June 21st, 2018?
I believe he was the president then.
Okay.
He may have been the EVP. I don't know.
Okay. And then we have an email at the top. It's to Sean Bailey, CC Janelle Tipton. And then it has some copies to some other people. It's from Alan Horn. I believe we said he was one of the co-directors. Is that correct?
Co-chairman.
Co-chairman. Okay. And
she's over it.
Alan Bergman.
The other co-chairman.
Okay. And do you have any recollection of ever reading the Rolling Stones article about Johnny Depp back in this time frame?
I honestly don't remember if I ever read this document. I may have.
Do you have any understanding of why this would be sent from Alan Horn to these other individuals on the top?
Again, same as before, just because of the fact that we have a relationship with Johnny. So they may have determined it was important to bring it to their attention.
All right, Ms. Newman, I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 54. And do you recognize this document?
Yes, it looks like a email.
Please tell me, please describe it for me.
It's an email, well, it started from Scott to myself. Scott Sellers is in Post Finance. And then I replied to Scott. So it looks like an email exchange between the two of us.
All right, and you said Scott Sellers is in Post Finance?
Correct.
What is that?
He handles all finances once film goes into post-production on any given picture. Also reporting for the studio, internal reporting, finances.
All right. And this is July 14, 2018 that he's sending this to you, correct?
Yes.
Do you recall reading the story that was in the Rolling Stone, The Trouble with Johnny Depp?
I mean, to be honest, I don't really remember much about the story, but obviously I must have looked at it.
What is the point of this witness, too?
Right, and in fact, you commented depressing. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And just to go back to refreshing your recollection on the template, do you see that it has importance to received on this when you sent it back?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Newman, I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 56. And it is a document also produced by Disney, and there's the date stamps, Disney 167 through 177. And I'm going to ask you to take a look at the top there. This is to Alan Bergman from, and it has THR's Today and Entertainment. Do you understand what that is?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to turn down to 169. It says, Johnny Depp's legal team prepares for court hearing about Amber Heard abuse claims. The actors' camp is previewing the evidence that it will present in an upcoming court hearing in the UK this fall, tied to a defamation lawsuit against his son for an article that labeled the actor a, quote, wife beater, end of quote. Katie Kaleni reports. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you have a recollection of learning about this and reading about the UK case in this time frame? We're talking October 2018.
I may have seen a headline come across my desk in the same manner as Alan received it, but that's probably as far as it went.
Ms. Newman, I'm going to show you what has been marked as deposition number 60. And it's dated November 5, 2020. And it says, Disney reportedly scraps plans for Depp's POTC 6. I'm assuming that's Pirates of the Caribbean 6 return. You see that? The question was, did you see it?
Yes, I see it.
As you sit here today, are you aware of any document in Disney's emails or in their IT system or anywhere that contains Amber Heard's op-ed from December of 2018?
I mean, no, not that I'm aware.
Okay. Are you aware of any decision maker within Disney who has ever said they are not casting Johnny Depp in Pirates 6 or any other role because of Amber Heard's op-ed?
No.
Are you aware of any decision maker outside of Disney? And by this, I'm including producers, directors, people of that ilk, who have ever said they were not considering Mr. Depp for Pirate 6 or any other movie because of Amber Heard's op-ed from December 2018?
No.
Wow.
All right. Do we? How much time?
We have an 11-minute one.
Okay, that's fine. What's your next witness?
Ellen Barkin,
All right.
Barkin.
Thank you.
Ellen Barkin. Next witness. Spam those reactions on Facebook in the bottom right corner next to the comments. Follow the page on Facebook so you guys are able to get notifications. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube.
I think the first thing that would be very short but very simple and clean for the record is if you could just describe kind of your career background. I know it's very lengthy, but just give a kind of brief summary of kind of when you started working and what you've done during your career.
I started acting professionally about 26 or 7. And I did theater, television, movies, lots of them. That's what I did for 40 years.
And in the course of your career acting in theater, television, movies, etc., did you come to meet a person by the name of Johnny Depp?
Yes.
Can you specify in time, Ms. Barkin, when you met him?
I would say 1990.
And upon or after meeting him, did there come a time when you became friends?
Yes.
And can you describe how that happened?
We just developed a friendship over time that lasted, I guess, if we met in the 90s, maybe 10 years, a little less.
And fair to say that Mr. Depp at the time was also an actor, a professional actor?
Yes.
Were you, did you act in any film, stage, or TV productions with Mr. Depp?
Yes, I was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
How often would you see Mr. Depp?
When I lived in New York, usually whenever I go to L.A., if I were in L.A., I'd see him once a week, maybe more. I mean, the friendship went up and down, living on different coasts.
And did there come a time when your friendship with Mr. Depp became more than that, became romantic in nature?
Yes.
And at what point in time did your relationship with Mr. Depp take a romantic turn?
After I had moved to Hollywood, and he, switched the buttons.
Recall what year you moved to Hollywood?
Yes, 1994.
When you said switch the buttons, can you tell me what you meant by that?
The friendship went from a purely platonic friendship to a romantic one.
At that point in 1994, when the relationship turned romantic,
change that to sexual.
To sexual.
Thank you.
For how long did your relationship with Mr. Depp remain sexual?
Several months. Anywhere between 3 and 5, 6.
And during that period, how often would you see Mr. Depp? That period when it was sexual?
I'd say I'd see him 3 or 4 times a week.
And again, I'm not looking to pry into private details, but can you tell me like where you would see him? Just give me some sense of that.
Yeah, he would come to my house, or I would go to his house.
And both houses in L.A.?
Yes, about 10-minute drive apart from each other.
And at either when you were at his house, where you didn't stay the night, or where you were at his house when you did stay the night, were there other people in the house who saw you there? Who would those people be?
He had an assistant. His sister. That's all I can remember now.
Do you recall the name of the assistant?
I don't know his
I
name.
thought there was going to be a long
he was
list.
referred to as Pig.
He was referred to by whom?
I'm talking the sister.
Depp.
I'm talking the
At any
assistant.
point that you were either initially friends and then
The
sexual
sister.
with Mr. Depp, did you become aware that he drank to excess?
I was always aware.
Okay, and can you explain how you were aware of that?
He was drunk all the time, a lot of the time.
And that would apply both to when you were initially friends and then later when it became sexual.
Yeah.
And what was he drunk? What was your understanding? What had he drunk to become drunk?
He was a red wine drinker.
Okay. In addition to alcohol, were you aware at that time that Mr. Depp was taking any prescription medication?
No.
Same question, Mr. Barkin, for illegal substances.
Yes.
Same question. And what illegal substances?
Hallucinogenics, cocaine, marijuana.
Hallucinogenics, can you say specifically what those were?
I don't really know. He called me and told me he was tripping.
With respect to any of that, hallucinogenics, cocaine, or marijuana, did he do any of that in your presence?
Yes.
More than once?
All the time.
When you say all the time, how many times, again, in the period that you were both first friends and sexual?
More coverage
sexual
is
with
at
Mr.
7
Depp,
p.m.
do you
every
think you
night.
saw him?
I haven't switched up.
I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I just know he was always drinking and or smoking a joint.
But would it be fair to say more than at least dozens of times?
Yeah. Over the full course, oh yeah.
Now, did you ever observe, Ms. Barkin, Mr. Depp's behavior change when he drank more or used more drugs?
I did not.
So he was kind of the same all the time, fair to say?
It was not the same.
Amber Heard is now Amber Turd is now trending.
Did there come a time,
It's number 5 on
Ms.
trending
Barkin,
now.
when Mr. Depp
In America,
acted in a way that was out of control with you?
Yes. Mr. Depp threw a wine bottle across the room, the hotel room on one instance in Las Vegas while we were shooting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Was something about to happen?
A fight was going on.
Between you and Mr. Depp?
No.
Who was the fight between?
Between Johnny Depp and his friends in the room, the assistant. Honestly, I don't remember.
And the bottle do you remember sitting here today, Ms. Barkin, whether the bottle was full of wine or empty?
I don't.
Sitting here today, Ms. Barkin, do you remember whether the bottle hit you?
No, it did not.
Did the bottle hit anyone else?
No, it did not.
Approximately how far away from you was Mr. Depp when he threw the bottle?
Across the room, so maybe by that break in the table or a little further down. It was a toss.
And sitting here today, if the bottle had hit you, would it have injured you? Ms. Barkin, was it your understanding back then that he was throwing the bottle at you?
I don't know why he threw the bottle.
And when he threw it, was it in your direction?
Yes.
Were there other people standing around you?
Yes.
So he threw it in your direction at a group of people?
Yes.
Whose hotel room was it?
His, Johnny Depp's.
Who broke off the
He
relationship?
did.
How did it come about that Mr. Depp broke off your relationship?
I went to go home. There was a big goodbye, crying, a lot of jealous, and don't do this, don't do that. And I never heard from him again after that.
And did Mr. Depp not want you to go back to Los Angeles at the time?
Yes, he didn't want me to go. I was only supposed to be there for 2 days. I stayed for longer.
And you just referenced, you just used the word jealous. How did that come up? What did he say that indicated to you that he was jealous?
He's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night? I had a scratch on my back once that got him very, very angry because he insisted it came from me having sex with a person who wasn't him.
During the time that you were in a sexual relationship with Mr. Depp, was it common for him to say things to you about being controlling, to use your words, or being jealous of you?
Yeah, very common.
And when, in these instances, when Mr. Depp became jealous or controlling, did he also become angry?
Yeah, and demanding.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go and take our afternoon recess. Please do not
Thank
discuss
goodness.
the case and do not do any outside research, okay? We'll see you back in 15 minutes.
Ellen Barkin, deposition actress, ex-girlfriend of Johnny Depp. They're married. They were together 30 years ago. They were watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial. Amber Turd is trending on Twitter.
All right, we'll come back at 3:45. Does that give you time to be ready? Okay, all right, 3:45.
3:45. All right, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay live right here. You guys are welcome to chat. I'm going to run outside. This is a 420 friendly stream. 420 friendly. I'm going to run outside and have a safety meeting. Come back, 7 p.m. Central Time is coverage of the war in Ukraine. Saw a couple of comments, little snarky comments. This is not the first trial we've covered on this channel. We've covered very serious criminal trials. Very serious criminal trials that I was actually outside for. I was at the scene for a couple of them, and then we got to watch the court trial afterwards. So we're used to it here. This is just something different. Wanted to check it out, and now here we are. 2 weeks into it. We joined halfway in. About halfway in. So like the video if you haven't. That's Ellen Barkin. Ellen Barkin. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And I'll be back. What'd she say? Would be 3:45 Eastern, 2:45 Central. I'm worried about Johnny's. Heidi, I'm dead. Yep. All right, y'all. I'll be in the chat. We'll be back.
Are we ready for the jury? Oh, yes. Okay, you want to approach with...
All right, perfect timing. Perfect timing. Like the video, share the stream back out. Comment where you're tuned in from. We're back. Afternoon short break has complete. How is everybody doing this afternoon? How are we doing, chat? Thank you, Dana, for the 99 stars. Thank you, Victoria, for the 200 stars. Sent stars for the first time. Thank you, Michelle, for the 100 stars. Thank you, Diet, for 100 stars. Thank you, Lynette, for the 50 stars. Callie for the 200 stars. Thank you so much. Chico Callie, how you doing? Campbell, Cambodia. Wisconsin's tuned in. Naples, Florida. Naples, Florida tuned in. South Wales, United Kingdom. Good to have you. Linda, thank you for the 500 stars. We got South Wales, United Kingdom tuned in. Tuned in from the bedroom today. I feel it. I feel it. It was a rainy day out earlier. St. Joseph, Missouri. Making sweet potato fries in Jacksonville, Florida. St. Paul, Minnesota. How you doing? Miami, Florida. Washington State. Manchester, United Kingdom here. It's about to be 2:50 p.m. Central Time. You guys are watching Mercado Media live. Doing fine in the Netherlands. Tensions are high in Europe. Very high. We cover it every night. Cover the war in Ukraine every night starting at 7 p.m. But it's the war in Ukraine, but it's affecting other countries and things around the world. So I try to get as much as the biggest stories, that the war in Ukraine is rippling to, and include it in the coverage. So you get combat footage, you get the map updates, all of the war stuff, but you also get the big news stories, and we dive into the articles and figure out the bigger picture as well. Tune in at 7 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We might go a little extra. Sometimes we go a little over 2 hours, but that's okay.
All right, thank you. Your next witness?
Your Honor, we call Dr. Alan Blastien.
All right.
Blaustien.
Dr. Alan Blastien.
Oh, and I'm asking questions first. I believe I may be the only one asking questions on this matter.
All right, thank you.
There was no cross on this.
Please provide your full name.
Alan Scott Blastien.
You're a doctor, correct?
Correct.
And you're a psychiatrist?
Yes.
How long have you been a psychiatrist for?
Since 1987.
What do you think so far of Amber and her
You
witnesses?
went to medical school?
Yes.
A lot of NPCs.
What medical school did you go to?
Northwestern University.
Johnny Depp was a patient of yours, correct?
Correct.
You understood that Mr. Depp had substance dependence issues, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what substance issues, what substances Mr. Depp had issues with?
Marijuana, alcohol, opiates, I believe.
Did you ever have an understanding that Mr. Depp had anxiety syndrome?
Marijuana. I knew Mr. Depp had anxiety.
And how did you come to be aware that Mr. Depp had anxiety?
She told me that.
Do you recall having any conversation that Mr. Depp was bipolar?
There was some question about bipolar disorder diagnosis, but I do not remember any specifics about the discussion.
Do you recall having a conversation with Mr. Depp about a bipolar diagnosis?
Hey, yo.
No.
What behaviors did Mr. Depp acknowledge?
Can they do this? Or not? I mean, clearly they are.
Certainly his drug use and his turning to drugs to help relieve a lot of the psychic pain that he was experiencing.
In working with Mr. Depp, would you agree that Mr. Depp had fundamental issues with anger?
I would say that he expressed having issues with anger.
Mr. Depp expressed having issues with anger?
Yes.
Did Mr. Depp express having issues of anger towards Amber?
He expressed having anger towards her. Yes.
Do you recall what reasons Mr. Depp told you as to why he was expressing anger towards Amber?
I don't think so.
I can't,
These are just depositions, though. They're using depositions.
In working with
witness
Mr. Depp,
testimony.
was he ever suspicious of Amber having affairs?
I can recall now he expressed feelings of jealousy, but I don't remember if it was about affairs.
These are supposed to be used for discovery, not for
You recall
testimony.
any more detail about what Mr. Depp was feeling jealousy toward Amber about?
No.
It's Tom Selleck. I'm kidding. It's Dr. Alan Blastien.
In working with Mr. Depp, did you see that Mr. Depp had any issues with patients?
Yes, he was impatient.
What is your understanding about issues that Mr. Depp had with Amber?
It was a very chaotic relationship with a lot of fluctuations and ups and downs and lots of difficulty in emotional expressions and lots of anger in both places and high intensity affect and emotional expression. A lot of love, a lot of disappointment, a lot of fears.
Thank you,
Blastien,
Thomas.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Blastien Exhibit 3. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
It's my invoice billing document.
Okay. This is from your files?
Correct.
And you keep this document in the ordinary course of business?
Correct.
And this billing invoice is for Johnny Depp, correct?
Correct.
And so where it says 10 to 14 from your billing records, would this be is this your understanding the first time you met with Mr. Depp?
By phone, yes.
And in total, if we look at the number of sessions you either met or spoke to Mr. Depp that weren't canceled or he didn't show up, my count, it comes to 18 times you met with Mr. Depp. Does that sound about right?
Looks like 18 times.
Did you have any concerns about any of the amounts of medications that Mr. Depp was taking?
I had concerns about the Adderall that I would have expressed to him.
And what were the concerns about the Adderall?
I don't recall the specific conversations, but I would have been asking about how he was diagnosed to have ADHD or under what circumstances he would take that, especially if he wasn't
So he doesn't even
currently working.
Is this?
Did you ever talk to Mr. Depp about what he did when Marilyn Manson would visit?
No.
When you were working with Mr. Depp, did you have any understanding whether Mr. Depp was still abusing drugs and alcohol or not?
Yes.
But you do recall that there were times in your working with Mr. Depp where he had breakthrough uses of drugs or alcohol?
Yeah, that his relative sobriety was not complete, yes.
And that's what you mean by breakthrough usage, that his sobriety, Mr. Depp's sobriety, was not complete?
Well, relative sobriety. Again, I said relative sobriety because he did continue to use marijuana throughout, almost entirely throughout the time that I knew him, with a short time exception, I think. So I called it relative sobriety. Then there'd be some breakthrough uses of other substances.
Okay. And when you say breakthrough usage, just so everyone understands, what do you mean by that?
He was trying to be sober. He was working on sobriety. And by breakthrough uses, I mean sobriety would mean the abstinence of using the substance. And so the breakthrough would be on a particular time he would have used the substance that he was trying to be sober of, abstinent of.
Okay.
What strain is the
in
coffer and the smoking? The
marijuana,
coffer smoking on in the courtroom.
In the time you saw Mr. Depp from October of 2014 through January of 2015, there were times where Mr. Depp broke his sobriety with drugs or alcohol in addition to marijuana, correct?
I believe so, yes.
How did you come to that understanding?
He would have told me.
Do you know why Mr. Depp stopped seeing you?
I know he was preparing to leave to Australia to go to work, and I assumed that was the reason.
But he hasn't returned to you since he went to Australia in 2015, correct?
Correct.
And did anyone inform you as to why he stopped seeing you?
No.
Blastien Exhibit 9 are notes reflecting your care of Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
And you kept these notes in the ordinary course of business, correct?
Correct.
And you kept these notes in a file for Mr. Depp, correct?
Correct.
And this is page 1 of those notes from October 2nd, 2014, correct?
Correct. Again, there will be plenty of places where I don't remember, I can't read what they say. They are for my current attention purposes only in these particular notes.
Okay.
And that's what makes them process notes.
In working with Mr. Depp, did he discuss any abuse he received as a child or an adolescent?
Yes.
And do you recall any difficulties that Mr. Depp was talking to you about in his relationship with his fiancée?
No, not from this.
What does it say?
Such a pain in the ass.
Do you recall why he was saying Amber was a pain in the ass?
No.
Okay. And what's the next thing say?
Well, in boxes about his kid's mom.
Okay.
And again, I think I have the word destructive.
What was destructive referring to? Do you know?
I don't know. No, I don't. Something relationship 14 to 15 years, mother of my kids. Out of that officially. He didn't want to be his dad. Thinking I'm not abandoning like his dad. And then below kids, it says clear, better. She needed me to be all this needed me to be all this week or all this work. I don't know.
If we turn to the next page, it says page 2.
Yep, got it.
And then what's the next line say?
There's this violence, rage that we've had over a couple of years.
Okay, and so what is Mr. Depp referring to there?
I don't recall.
So do you recall that in working with Mr. Depp that he spoke about violence and rage in other relationships in addition to his relationship with Amber?
Or rage and chaos. I don't remember violence, but I do remember rage and chaos. Now, again, the context of this is I had met him at this point. So this is an initial telephone consultation. So to see whether or not he was going to start therapy with me.
But in your working with Mr. Depp, was he talking about rage and chaos with relationships in addition to his relationship with Amber, correct?
Yes.
What other relationships was he talking about rage and chaos?
Again, I don't have the specific recollection, but I think it included the mother of his children and arguments about not child custody, child care, or visitation, or access to the children. On the left, it says raise 2 kids, 15 and 12. And then below that, she tried to protect me. She tried to protect me too.
You know what that's referring to?
My association now is his sister, but I don't think that's true. I don't have a specific recollection, no. Wouldn't take fear, wake up to fight devil. Wait up to fight devil.
You know what that's referring to? Wait up to fight devil?
I think he referred to a devil as some version of internal depression and chaos that he felt, something like an everyday phenomenon. He felt he was struggling, and he, I think, would label it as a devil.
So Mr. Depp labeled it's something that was internal to him as the devil,
as a representation of something horrible inside of himself. What I would say.
So the devil was something horrible inside of himself, correct? That's what Mr.
Again, I don't think he ever said that, so I'm going to be careful here. The devil was the representation of the battle that he had many days when he woke up with the depression and anxiety and fears that he had.
Did Mr. Depp ever refer to himself as a monster?
Remember the word monster in my office, but I don't know if it's referring to himself or not. Maybe that'll be more revealed as we go forward.
Now, turning to Blastien 12, which is page 4 of this exhibit, and there's a 3 at the top, correct?
Yeah.
And then to the right, that says Amber fiance, correct?
Correct.
And then there's
work through anger just below that.
And where it's saying work through anger, is that referring to his anger towards Amber?
I think what he was saying then is that part of his goal of therapy was to work through anger that he and his fiance had towards each other. Then going back to the left, better with girl about it. self-destructive, hard to not put in front of me.
Do you know what self-destructive, hard not to put in front of me means? It's referring to?
I think self-destructive was his drug use. That's what I think referring to at this time.
I'm now looking at Blastien 13, which has a page 4. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And at the top it says Johnny/Debbie, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then the date, it says 10/what?
I think that's 10/7.
And so it says JD 10/21/14, correct?
Correct. A lot of things, work, intense work, fatigue.
How is
Need
this
a minute.
dude? Another, again, Johnny's addiction on
Where I
trial.
can say with certainty his words, shit with my girl.
And what's that referring to?
Difficulty he was having with Amber.
Do you recall what he was talking about, what difficulty he was having with, Mr. Depp was having with Amber?
No.
The next line looks like it says she refuses to accept.
Correct.
Do you know what Amber refuses to accept? What Mr. Depp was referring to?
Nope.
And to the right, it says Amber what?
Amber wedding.
Were you talking at this point about potentially Mr. Depp and Amber marrying?
Yes, he was talking about that, yes.
Okay. And then what does it say under she refuses to accept?
Wedding February.
And then what's next?
May not want to go to marriage, 51 years old.
Were there any discussions that you had with Mr. Depp where he had concerns about the age difference between him and Amber?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. But what does it say under 51 years old?
A lot of life experiences. You're being my mother and psychotic sister.
What do you understand Mr. Depp was referring to where you wrote, "You're being my mother and psychotic sister"?
I think that's something that he said to, he told me, he said to her. That
Mr. Depp said to Amber, "You're being my mother and psychotic sister"?
That's what I would think, yes.
Okay. Then the next line.
High tolerance for marijuana.
Same.
Who has a high tolerance for marijuana?
He did.
Right, turning to the next page, which is Blastien 15, and where I have a number 5 on the top there. What is it? Something?
Self-destructive very early.
And was Mr. Depp talking about himself being self-destructive very early?
Yes.
Okay. How is Mr. Depp describing that he was self-destructive?
I think, I don't recall, but let's continue and maybe something's there.
So he was trying to be sober from booze and pills, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then was it you who said reward?
Yeah, asking him about where can he get rewards elsewhere? Where did he get reward? I maybe asked him, where did he get rewards elsewhere? And there he said, in the past, MDMA, ecstasy, cocaine.
So what did you understand where you wrote MDMA, ecstasy, cocaine?
I'm not quite sure, but those are things that he had used in the past. There is another possibility that I had asked him specifically about that, but I don't think so. I think it's more likely that those were things he had used in the past.
Do you know what pills Mr. Depp was referring to be sober from?
I know oxycodone was the main thrust of that time.
And then it says, back to the left, it says left off.
Yeah, and that's probably a note to myself.
Night terrors.
To try to get back to a reward loop mechanism.
Who is coughing?
It's parallel to a relationship. What kinds of rewards could come back to him that could be healthy? What kinds of rewards that could come from the relationship that could be healthy? And then talk about biology changes. So I made a note to myself there to talk about how the brain changes in the face of many of these drugs over time.
Did you talk with Mr. Depp at all that his brain can change as he continues to take these drugs?
Yes, I did.
And then it says 10/27/14.
More on relationship issues, being accused, in his word, of being manic, grounded by seeing children. Son is one of the positive aspects of the relationship. I assume he's talking about his past relationship there.
Mr. Depp was saying that Amber reminded him of his mom and his psychotic sister.
The relationship reminded him of his relationship with his psychotic sister and his mother, yes.
And Mr. Depp talked about that he was being accused of being manic.
Yes.
Did he say who accused him of being manic?
I assume from this it was Amber.
Turn to the next page, Blastien 16. Yeah, and this is 10/29/14 at the top.
Mm-hmm. The mood euthymic.
What does that mean?
Attention. Normal mood. Attention decreased.
This is all to just like. This is all to just muddy waters and keep taking more time.
Memory.
Self-destructiveness does not equal abusiveness.
What do you mean by
to
having
others.
transitional difficulties with his memory?
It would have been part of a committee mental status test that I would have done in the first session, where he would have trouble holding on to memory of things from 5 minutes ago. If I asked him to remember 3 words, he would have had difficulty remembering those 3 words 5 minutes later after distracting him with other conversation.
Right. And then what does it say after that?
THC, a marijuana, as part of issue, tetrahydrocannabinol. That's what THC stands for.
Oh, we know.
So you saw THC as an issue with Mr. Depp's memory and attention, is that right?
Well, with the transitional memory, at least, yes. Perhaps the attention. MSE, mental status examination. More present, more attention. Off on dates. Ask him about what today might be. What today's date was, perhaps, is what that's referring to.
So Mr. Depp was off on
what date that was.
Date. Turning to the next page, Blastien 17. It says JD at the top, and then 11/10/14. See that?
Yep, I have that.
Okay. And Mr. Depp came in to see you on 11/10/14.
Correct.
Okay. And what's the first line say?
Some clouding, probably secondary to THC.
What do you mean by clouding?
Would have been something in confusion or something about his mental state, or less sharp, less alert, perhaps.
What's the next line say?
It says no evidence of mania, hypomania.
What do you mean by that?
I didn't see in his presentation any evidence of mania or hypomania.
Okay. Next line.
discussion about relationships, core issues of trust. Amber says context, contact, don't know.
Okay.
Fruitless meeting with her therapist.
Did you ever observe Mr. Depp with mania or hypomania in any of your other sessions?
Not that I recall.
And at 10:24:14, Mr. Depp came in for another individual session, correct?
11:24:14.
The first line says 15 minutes late.
15 minutes late, clear, relationship stabilizing, looking at jealous parts of him.
What do you mean by that, looking at jealous parts of him?
Things that make him jealous and what his role might be in jealousy.
And what made Mr. Depp jealous?
Well, about what was happening there, but with Amber, I don't know. I can't recall. I see in my next.
This is Dr. Alan Blastien,
It was a triggering point.
psychiatrist
My
in
next
Los
note is
Angeles.
triggering point. Early breakup at 22, where an actress cheated with a leading man.
So was Mr. Depp jealous of Amber being with other men?
I don't remember that specifically.
Okay. And turning to Blastien 18, which looks like it starts at 12:7.
He's been in practice for more than 20 years.
Mr. Depp came in for an individual session.
Correct.
And then it looks like you have paranoia in quotes.
Mm-hmm. Would have been his word. And what he meant by that, the elements were fear, envy, and vigilance.
So Mr. Depp told you something about paranoia?
Mm-hmm. Well, as he defined it.
And his elements of paranoia were fear, envy, and vigilance, as he told you. Then there's, what's the next day, 12:18:14?
Yeah, let's see. 12:18:14, yes.
And Mr. Depp came in for a session.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Patient working. So psychotherapy on phone. It's just possible it was a phone session that I didn't mark as a phone session. Big fight with girlfriend yesterday. Struggling with how to separate. Let her tell you her feelings. Relationship needs to take care of you. Her to go to a safe zone, withdraw. Different than childhood experiences.
Thank you, Zach, for the like.
And it's at 1:6:15, correct?
Correct.
And what do these notes say?
Patient late, 20 minutes. Positive hypnotherapy session. Goals to make a beeline to bed. Using relationship to take care of the individuals. Let's see. Not logical approach to Amber's work. Take care of emotions. Sobriety continuing.
And then Blastien 20. Move down to the last page. And this is for 1/8/15, just to be clear.
1/8/15, correct. Slate, vulnerability, woman in studio who admired Amber. Threat.
What did that mean? What did you understand that to mean?
That probably related to your prior question, that there was a woman who admired her that he felt jealous of. Let's see, the next thing is something of vulnerability. Instances of vulnerability. An internal fear parallel to vulnerability in childhood. Inability. Free or fight, only way.
What does that mean? Free or fight only way?
Free or fight, or free and fight is the only way. And my understanding of that is either to be free of the relationship or fight for it. And positive relatedness with Amber through dash vulnerability.
Did and 1/8/15 was the last time you saw or spoke to Mr. Depp as a patient, correct?
I believe that's true.
Did Mr. Depp describe to you at all how his jealousy would present itself, whether he was jealous of a man or a woman in relation to Amber?
It would make him angry. It would make him feel insecure.
Your next witness.
Your Honor, our next witness is Eric George. He was the attorney for Amber relating to the op-ed.
Will you please state?
All right.
Attorney for Amber surrounding the op-ed in Washington
Your
Post.
name for the record?
Sure. Eric George, E-R-I-C. Last name is George, G-E-O-R-G-E.
And could you also state your business address, please?
Sure. 2121 Avenue of the Stars, Suite 2800, Los Angeles, California, 90067.
That was rough.
And what is the name of the law firm that you work with?
It's Brown, B-R-O-W-N-E, George, Ross, O'Brien, Anagway, and Ellis.
And you are an attorney, Mr. George?
I am.
And I take it from the name of the firm that you are one of the named partners?
I am indeed.
Okay. What are your areas of practice?
Litigation, largely in the business and entertainment areas.
Have you handled defamation and libel matters?
I have.
Where are you barred? In other words, what states are you a member of the bar?
Sure. In California, New York, and Washington, D.C.
And are you also a member or barred in the United States Supreme Court?
I am.
Can you please tell us where you attended undergraduate and law school?
Sure. At Georgetown for both undergrad and law school.
What, if any, service did you have with the Council of the United States Senate Judiciary Committee?
Sure. I'm just pausing to get my dates correct here. In approximately March of 1999, I began service as counsel to the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee, where I served through about mid-2000.
And what, if any, service did you have to the Secretary, the Legal Affairs Secretary to the Governor, Pete Wilson?
Sure. From about March 1997 to January of 1999, I was counsel to then Governor Pete Wilson, and my specific title was Deputy Legal Affairs Secretary.
Have you been recognized for your career achievements since you have been an attorney?
I'll say immodestly, yes, in various ways that lawyers are from time to time in magazines and publications and whatnot.
And what, if any, recognition have you received as one of the top 100 attorneys in California?
The legal paper annually puts out a list of the top 100 attorneys in California, and I've been fortunate to be selected as one of those for many years.
And what, if any, recognition have you had as being a super lawyer in California?
Same answer, except I believe it's called Los Angeles Lawyer magazine. I could have that wrong, but again, annually they put out a list of their super lawyers.
All right. And are you also a member of the American College of Trial Lawyers?
I am.
What is one of the qualifications for becoming a member, being invited to be a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers?
Sure. So the college reaches out to individual lawyers who have distinguished themselves and generally occupy the top 1% of law practice. And it's an organization dedicated to the development of professionalism within the practice of law.
I'm going to now turn to Amber Heard, and I'm going to ask you, Mr. George, how long have you known Amber Heard?
I have known Amber Heard, gosh, it's got to be a good 5 years.
I'm going to be referring to an op-ed, and I'm going to use the term op-ed. It's obviously an opinion editorial that Amber Heard ended up ultimately publishing with the ACLU. And so in the Washington Post, December 18, 2018. So as I go through and ask these questions, I'm going to be using just the term op-ed. Will you be comfortable with me using op-ed and understand it to mean that particular publication on December 18, 2018?
Sure.
So what, if any, legal representation did you provide to Ms. Heard relating to the op-ed?
She presented to me a draft of the op-ed and asked for my counsel in terms of reviewing it, editing it, and finalizing it for publication.
When is the first time Amber Heard reached out to you in connection with the op-ed and reviewing the op-ed?
It was certainly within the time frame of December 6, 2018.
In connection with the op-ed,
every time she says op-ed.
What, if anything, was your objective in representing Amber Heard with respect to the review and revision of the op-ed?
Every time she says op-ed.
I reviewed it and spent some significant time on it to make sure that there would be no meritorious claim that could be brought against her in connection with a defamation or related type of tort claim. And ideally, with that in mind, to minimize the possibility of her ever being sued in connection with publishing it.
So, Mr. George, I'm going to ask you to take a look at exhibit number 9.
Yes.
Are you familiar with this document?
I am.
Please describe what it is.
As its title, it's a judgment of dissolution of the marriage between Amber Heard and Mr. Depp.
Were you familiar with this document and its contents when you represented Amber Heard relating to the review of the op-ed?
Yes.
Another one.
And what was your objective in representing and advising Amber Heard on the op-ed in connection with this stipulated judgment of dissolution of marriage?
So my objective was to make sure that there would be no meritorious claim that could be brought against Ms. Heard in connection with the publication of an op-ed, whether that is a tort related to, say, defamation or something akin to it, but also including any contract-based breach claim arising in connection with the judgment.
And what, if any, indications did you have from Amber Heard during that time frame that Amber did not intend to follow your advice or did not care if she was in a compromising position or might be at legal risk?
So let me answer that this way. Really 2 points. Number one, there was never anything that she said to me to the effect that she was willing to run some risk of being sued or that she wouldn't listen to my counsel or anything of that sort. Number two, that she affirmatively did follow in all instances my counsel with respect to these particular edits.
What, if any, legal advice provided by you to Amber Heard respecting the Washington Post op-ed was disregarded by Amber Heard?
None, to my knowledge.
What, if any, legal advice provided by you to Amber Heard respecting the Washington Post op-ed was followed by Amber Heard?
All of it.
What, if any, legal advice did you provide to Amber Heard in connection with the drafting and publication of the op-ed that was not made in good faith by you?
I acted in good faith throughout and with the best of my abilities.
Thank God, dude. I was gonna get.
All right, your next witness.
Couldn't handle that one anymore.
Yes, Your Honor. We have
Just saved our
Jessica
lives.
Kovacevic. She's Amber's agent, and that's approximately 27 minutes.
Go ahead, spell the last name for me.
It's a tough one. Kovacevic.
All right, thank you.
The lawyer just. What if any?
Good afternoon, Ms. Kovacevic. And Ms. Kovacevic, do you know that you are here today in your personal capacity and also as a representative of your agency, WME?
I do.
Ms. Kovacevic, what do you do for work?
I'm a talent agent.
Would you please describe in just very general terms what a talent agent does generally?
Generally, you procure work for your clients. You make introductions, you read their scripts, you negotiate their deals.
And I take it Ms. Heard is one of your clients?
Yes.
Did Ms. Heard have a successful career at the time you began working with her?
Yes.
And over the period that you've worked with Ms. Heard as her agent, what have your job responsibilities entailed?
Like I mentioned before, introducing her to producers and directors, writers, studio executives, procuring work for her, introducing her to people that can employ her, and then negotiating her deals, and then dealing with whatever happens on while she is working, anything that arises that needs dealing with.
Did you ever, at any point in time, see Mr. Depp hit Ms. Heard?
No.
Were you working with Ms. Heard when she was cast in the original Aquaman?
She was cast in Justice League first, and then the deal was to be in Justice League, the first Aquaman and the second Aquaman.
Did you assist Ms. Heard in procuring the role of Mira in Aquaman?
Yes.
Cap.
Was Aquaman a successful movie?
Cap.
Extremely.
Was Ms. Heard's performance in the film well received critically?
Yes.
Were there any negative views about Ms. Heard's performance in Aquaman?
In the press, you mean? Or what do you mean specifically?
Well, in the press or otherwise.
No, there weren't any negative.
Oh, stop, dude.
Did you attempt to renegotiate Ms.
Stop.
Heard's salary for Aquaman 2?
Yes.
You are full of it. Oh my God. That was, oh God.
We did that around this time last year.
Why did you attempt to renegotiate it at all?
There was no.
It's standard to renegotiate these types of deals. It's normal practice. When a movie, when Aquaman came out, it was the most successful movie of all time ever.
For what reason?
So even more so for that reason. But for any successful franchise movie, when you make a 3 or 4 picture deal,
Pretty
like we
sure
did,
it was for Jason Momoa.
in success,
Just
typical
gonna
to go
guess.
back and
Wild
renegotiate
guess.
the deal.
And now getting to your point,
Yeah, there you go,
why
Catherine.
did you
Thank you.
choose to do it last year at this time?
Because that's when her option was exercised.
And when you did get around to trying to negotiate, you and WME successful in doing that?
God,
Correct.
listen, y'all sat through this
When did
trial.
he
You
call
don't need
Warner
to watch
Brothers
Aquaman
to
now. You're
renegotiate
good.
the next film?
You're good. Promise.
It would have been the end of February last year.
Unless you want to watch Jason Momoa, but if you want
What year was that?
see Amber Heard's
2021?
performance, you're good.
Yes.
You're covered.
At some point, were there press reports that Ms. Heard was getting released from Aquaman 2?
There were online rumors for a while that she was being replaced.
Blessed. Thank
When
goodness.
did you first hear about those?
First, I don't know exactly when, but it was way before. It was way before this. It was
It's not, I don't think
maybe
it's
even a year before this. 6 months before, maybe.
So nobody ever told you that Warner Brothers misrepresented the reason that they were replacing Ms. Heard, correct?
The Snyder Cut
no,
was
why would
fired
they?
of the Justice.
Did there come a time when Ms. Heard was restored to her role in Aquaman 2?
Yes.
At that time, what were the terms of her restoration to Aquaman 2?
The financial terms.
Yes.
She was going to be making $2 million on the second film.
Was that consistent with the original contract?
Yes.
Is this consistent with what Warner Brothers originally gave as the rationale for not using her in Aquaman 2?
The lack of chemistry between her and Jason.
Yes.
Yes.
So, did there come a time
She was
when
awful,
WME
dude.
came to understand that Ms. Heard's role as Mira in Aquaman 2 was diminished in some way?
When she was sent the script, directly, which is the common practice for these films.
You're aware that Ms. Heard has a contract with L'Oreal, correct?
Yes.
Were you working with Ms. Heard when she signed that contract?
Yes.
What's a bot?
A bot is a fake account that's created to execute a certain objective.
What is your educational background since high school?
College.
What college did you attend?
NYU.
What year did you graduate?
2005.
What was your major?
Communications.
When WME first began working with Ms. Heard as her talent agent, you said she had had some success. How well known was Ms. Heard?
She was pretty famous. She was within the industry. You could call anyone and they knew who she was. So she had a certain level of fame. She had starred in movies and shows already by that point.
Okay, going back and taking a wider lens, over the time that the several years you've worked with Ms. Heard, how would you characterize the arc of her career?
I would say she was a known actress when I started working with her. Like I said, she was someone that you could call executives and producers and people about everyone, knew her name. She hadn't yet reached big star status, but she was definitely, she could get the lead of an independent movie. She could get the lead of a TV series. When I worked with her, we slowly started to strategically, have her work on some more prestigious projects and work with, better directors. And then when she got Justice League, that was a, turning point for her. And then Aquaman, subsequently, was obviously the biggest thing she had ever been a part of.
Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up. With her being part of Aquaman 2?
No.
Tell me what you mean. Why not?
Because typically, when you have an actor who is in a movie as successful as Aquaman was, their career totally changes, and they're in a different echelon. They, get way more offers. They're just put in a different place, position-wise with studios. They're more bankable, so they can greenlight projects.
The comments, dude, I'm dead.
All of those kind of things are consistent with when you're in a blockbuster of that size. And with her, that did not happen. It happened, very significantly for her co-star. Obviously, he's the lead of the film and he's the title character, but even a small percentage of that did not happen for her. That's my assessment.
What evidence sitting here today do you have that this caused her career any harm?
Because evidence in that, in my experience and the experience of my colleagues in the experience of this business, your career takes a turn after something like that. She was very well received in the movie at the time. Everyone was very happy with her at the time. There was no issues. And then to have a complete downturn after that.
Because you were
and then
awful.
Have that coincide with constant tweets and negativity.
The movie
put out about
sucked.
Her. I don't have a physical piece of paper of evidence, but it's the only logical conclusion I can draw.
I got it. The movie was bad.
Can you name a
there you
single
go,
role
for
she
free.
has lost as a result of any activity by Adam Waldman or anyone at his behest?
There was a movie at Amazon that she had been offered with Gael Garcia Bernal. I don't know what the final title of it is called now. I can look it up. It had a working title at the time. That they took away from her, and the lead actor who was a producer on it very much wanted it to be her and was very frustrated with the process. And no one can say out loud, we're taking this away from her because of this bad press, because it's nothing she did, and it's all hearsay and it's all whatever, but there's no other reason.
Now, Ms. Kovacevic, you
That was a whole lot of words.
A bit about Adam Waldman, correct?
Correct.
And can you point us to any career opportunities that Ms. Heard has lost because of any statements made by Mr. Waldman?
I mean, the Amazon movie, for one, is one that is tangible, because that is an example of something that she had before all of it that was then taken away. I know that a campaign she shot for Todd's via Katie Slater was scrapped and not used. There was not another specific example because, like I said to you, no one is going to say to me, oh, we can't hire her because of these tweets or whatever. They just don't want to hire someone that has bad press around them from
What Amazon movie?
These accusations, no one wants someone who's being accused of a liar and making something up and, abusing somebody. No one wants that association with their project.
And directing your attention 10 pages into the article, there's another quote from Mr. Waldman. Mr. Waldman states in this article,
Is there a cross for this witness,
quote,
dude?
quite simply, this was an ambush, a hoax. They set Mr. Depp up by calling the cops, but the first attempt didn't do the trick. The officers came to the penthouses, thoroughly searched and interviewed, and left after seeing no damage to face or property. So Amber and her friends spilled a little wine and roughed the place up, got their stories straight under the direction of a lawyer and publicist, and then placed a second call to 911, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
It just shows the top part of that on this page, but the top part was correct.
Okay. Did any was Emmy aware of Adam's statement, Mr. Waldman's statements in this particular article?
Yes.
Now, you testified a little bit earlier about there being tweets from Adam. I assume you were referring to Adam Waldman. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, impact did it have on Amber Heard's career and career path to have Mr. Depp's lawyer putting out statements in the press and in tweets that Amber Heard was lying, making things up, creating a hoax of abuse?
I think that his comments spurred on, it just added fuel to the fire. So there was already so much media coverage.
And that's what you observed?
That's what I observed.
I'm going to take you to Aquaman, and I'll call it Aquaman 1 just to make it a little bit easier to understand. What, if any, performance issues were raised with Amber Heard by anyone?
What, if any, Elaine is
that
back?
was responsible for the filming of Aquaman?
No performance issues raised whatsoever.
And what was your understanding of how Amber tested with the audiences in Aquaman?
My understanding was that she tested extremely well.
And this is an Aquaman has reflected all the markers of a very
I don't even have a
successful
sound
movie
for
at this
that.
point.
Yes.
You testified earlier
I don't have a
that
sound
it's
that's
quite
good enough for
typical
that.
when you have a series of 3 to 4 films in a franchise
Did
or
she
a
test
series
positive?
To be able to renegotiate as you go into the sequels. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that?
Because you make the initial deals, before the movie has done, well. And then when the movie overperforms like that, it's a custom.
In light of the success of Aquaman, would you expect that Amber Heard would be receiving endorsements as of this time?
Yes.
And what is the typical process that happens after someone has starred in a very successful movie, such as Aquaman and Amber with Mira?
The endorsement department would a combination of offers and then seeking out opportunities.
Also, didn't that movie come out when
Given
movies
Amber's
weren't coming
career
out?
trajectory leading up to and immediately after the success of Aquaman 1,
Hold on.
did you expect her career to go on an upward, downward trajectory, or stay the same?
I expected an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Yeah.
Because in success of a film like that, it's usually always the case.
What?
And immediately after the successes of Aquaman, would you have expected Amber's annual earnings to increase, decrease, or stay the same compared to the previous 5 years?
I would have expected them to increase.
And why is that?
Because her profile had been raised internationally. She was in a movie that was successful worldwide. And when you are in a movie that performs that well worldwide, your bankability is stronger. You can finance an independent film more easily. You can greenlight a film more easily. You can just do more and for more money.
Do you recall what the budget was for Aquaman?
Too much.
The first one, I don't know. It would have been probably somewhere between 150 and 200 million.
Immediately after the success of Aquaman, would you have expected Ms. Heard to continue to earn at least the fee she made on Aquaman on future big budget studio firms, or less or more?
That becomes an actor's quote, their fee. Yes, typically, you will then earn your, not on a tiny independent film, you couldn't make that much money on that, but another studio film, another film at a streamer or whatever, something like that, you would make that much or potentially get a raise.
Other than Aquaman 2, has Amber obtained any roles with a budget the size of Aquaman's?
No.
Has she been hired for any films with budgets over $100 million?
No.
Immediately after the success of Aquaman, would you expect the success of Aquaman and her starring role in that film to increase her ability to get more movie studios to be interested in her, decrease, or stay the same?
Increase.
And did it?
No.
Would you expect her to get more TV roles?
Objection.
And why?
Why? Because I mentioned earlier in the conversation, TV and films are so blended now, and there's much less of a delineation between picking projects between film and TV.
And did Amber receive more TV roles as a result of Aquaman, the success of Aquaman?
No.
Immediately after the success of Aquaman, would you have expected Amber to star in more than one project per year?
It depends. If it was a big, Aquaman takes up 6 months of the year. Big movies take up longer time. Indies, you can do a couple of them a year. It just depends. So I wouldn't put a number on it, but definitely more than 0.
And has Amber starred in more than one project per year since then?
No.
Immediately after the success of Aquaman, did you expect Amber to earn between $5 and $10 million a year for the next 5 years?
I would have expected to renegotiate on Aquaman 2, most certainly. And so right there, that would have been significantly more. And she would have, yes, I would have expected her to earn more in a combination of TV, film, and more endorsements.
Was it your understanding that WME passed on to L'Oreal suggestions to assist them in being able to block some of the harassing Instagrams they were getting at that time?
Yes.
All right. Let's bring up 30 again, please. Now, did in fact L'Oreal suspend having Amber Heard on the International Women's Day campaign?
Yes.
What the conditions were for the renewal?
It was just essentially that they were renewing her. It was the same fee. That was the bulk of it. It wasn't, like a raise, but they were extending her.
Okay. And typically coming out of the success of Aquaman, would you have anticipated that Amber could have negotiated larger fees for commercial projects?
Yes, we would.
Okay, and why would that be?
Because her profile had been raised. She was, she had done something super successful. So typically that's what you would do. That would just be the standard practice.
When did you first learn about the change.org petition that was out there to try to get Amber Heard dropped from Aquaman 2?
I don't know when I first saw it.
Were you aware of it as of May 27, 2020?
Yes.
You earlier talked about bots in response to one of Mr. Chu's questions. What, if anything, was your understanding of these bots at this time, during this time frame?
My understanding is just based off my own, mainly based off my own research, just clicking on the accounts myself, and then discussing it amongst the team.
And what did you learn when you did that?
Just as I would go through, daily, just looking at comments or, just the negative comments, clicking on them. Many of them were just kind of accounts made for this kind of commentary, or just accounts that just had, no followers, no posts, nothing, or following just Amber and Johnny, things like that.
And I'm sorry. And so what did you learn from clicking onto those that led you to believe they were bots?
They weren't consistent with what I know to be actual Instagram accounts.
Are you an expert on? Where's the forensic guy? Bring him back.
Trajectory for an actor. who just broke out in a major franchise.
Where's the master
film,
hashtag
would
guy?
you look to other comparable actors' careers to ascertain what type of acting jobs they could get?
I mean, I've been doing this job for, quite some time, so I don't necessarily look to one or the other, but in general, when someone is in, what was at the time the most successful film
I think
ever
we're having a
released,
storm in Minnesota here.
the natural progression is growth and more films, more work, more money, all of that stuff.
And when you say the most successful film ever, you're referring to Aquaman 1, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are comparable actors' salaries used in your mind to ascertain the asking price for an actor in a similar film? Are comparable actors' salaries used in your mind to ascertain the asking price for an actor in a similar film?
Yes.
Would you consider Ana de Armas' career to be comparable to Amber's in measuring where Amber would have been after Aquaman 1? Or should have been?
Ana de Armas, yes. I would say that would be a comparable, that would be a good comp.
All right. Yes,
Well,
ma'am. Is that what you have for today?
Boss.
That's it. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our day and the end of our week. So I want to make sure you have a good 3 days and come back for our last week of testimony and enjoy your weekend. I just want to remind you again of what we need to remember as we go through the weekend, okay? So you're not to read anything about this case. You're not to watch anything about this case. You're not to listen to anything about the case. This applies to television, newspapers, magazines, the internet, and any online sites. Further, you're not to read, watch, or listen to anything about this case on any social media networking site or streaming service. In addition, you must not communicate with anyone about the case, whether in person, over the phone, by email, text, or instant messaging, or by any other electronic or non-electronic means. This includes your fellow jurors, friends, family, co-workers, acquaintances, and strangers. I also instruct you that you cannot do any research or make inquiries about this case, whether online or by any other means. For example, you cannot look information up on the internet that is related to this case or related to the persons involved in this case, nor may you consult dictionaries or other reference materials. What you learn about this case is limited to what you learn in the four walls of this courtroom when proceedings are underway, all right? So enjoy your weekend. We'll see you early, 9 o'clock, ready to go Monday morning, okay? Thank you.
That means 8 o'clock Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. Again, Monday, so we're off tomorrow. No court tomorrow. I'll get to sleep in a little bit. Jury just left the courtroom.
All right, and also in this matter, Ms. Hurd and Mr. Depp, please do not do any posts on social media over the weekend and no public statements, please. All right, and we will see you on Monday morning. As for the attorneys, 8 a.m. tomorrow. I thank you for all the jury instructions, objections. We're going through those now. I appreciate that. I am missing some exhibits from depositions that we need to get, so if you get with Jamie so we can get those and get them all taken care of for the week. Another thing that I'm doing, just to give you information, I'm getting IT together to do a laptop for the jurors for deliberations. The laptop is going to be scrubbed and it's just going to have the audio and the video files on them, okay? So they're going to get me a mock-up by Tuesday. It's not going to have any Wi-Fi or internet or no passwords, so it's just going to have that on it. So once I get it and I approve it, I'm going to have both parties take a look at it and make sure everything is on there. That's supposed to be on there, and that's going to go to the jury when the physical evidence goes to the jury, okay? It just seemed like that was a better way to do it for the audio and the video files, okay? As far as times go, I can give you your updated times as of this minute. For plaintiff has used 42 hours and 45 minutes. Defendant has used 53 hours and 1 minute. So the time remaining for the plaintiffs is 18 hours and 30 minutes. And the time for the defendants is 8 hours and 14 minutes.
Thank goodness. I got only 8 hours left.
So anybody have any other issues before?
18 hours and 40 minutes to 8 hours.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Yes?
Thank you.
We'll be back on Monday with the witness testimony. Well, we have a severe thunderstorm going on right now, so I might actually quickly go and see what's up with that. All right. But if not, I'm going to be live at 7 p.m. Central Time tonight. 7 p.m. Central Time right here on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to be covering the war in Ukraine tomorrow. Coverage of the war will be at 1 p.m. Central Time. So like the afternoon coverage for this trial, same time frame for the war coverage tomorrow. No trial because I have softball tomorrow night. I do hope you guys tune in because we are streaming. I'm streaming. We're playing in a suicide awareness charity tournament. All money and everything raised is going to go straight to the tournament that is raising money for awareness for suicide. And I want to be streaming that on Snack Squad TV. You guys can subscribe to Snack Squad TV on YouTube. I stream all of our games. Look at, here you go. And I got a scoreboard on the screen, everything. So this is what it looks like. If you guys want to tune in to our softball games for a really good cause this weekend. All right, Snack Squad TV on YouTube, and then tonight, Mercado Media for the war coverage. All right, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. I'll see you guys tonight. This has been the defamation trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. I'm your host, Andy Mercado. Have a good night.